Chapter 390. Why don't I take a look at your hand first? Zishan said in a light voice, and her tone was completely emotionless. Ho Xuelin looked at the hand that was holding the sword. A neat line of blood emerged from the skin, and the middle finger and ring finger began to split apart. Ho Xuelin could only watch helplessly as his arms separated. No, this is impossible. Shock appeared in Ho Xuelin's eyes as he looked at Zishan, who was not far away from him. Suddenly, he felt that his neck was a little cold, as if it was moving, and the world in front of him had become crooked. Who is this person in front of me? Why didn't it have a head? Blood sprayed into the sky like a fountain, and then fell down. Ho Xuelin wanted to wipe the liquid off his face, but it was useless. Not right, this person's clothes in front of me looks like me. No, this is not possible. Marquis! Lin Hong exclaimed. Ho Xuelin's eyeballs were still moving. Since he was still alive, it could be seen that it was not so easy for a god to die. Take me away. Lin Hong hurriedly held onto Ho Xuelin's head and quickly fled the scene. However, just when he turned around, he saw Zishan. Zishan raised the dragon rebel sword high up and slashed down. The entire world seemed to have fallen silent. Ho Xuelin was once again split into two halves. Lin Hong directly exploded on the spot, but Ho Xuelin still had a primordial spirit. Zishan made a grabbing motion in the air, and the primordial spirit that was charging forward seemed to have been sucked in, and it went straight towards Zishan's small hand. You shameless bitch! What else do you want? A series of shouts resounded from the primordial spirit. Zishan did not say anything. She gradually increased the strength of her left hand. Ho Xuelin panicked. Zishan, what are you trying to do? Stop. Zishan. In any case, we are husband and wife. A day as husband and wife means 100 days of love. Zishan said coldly. There is no gratitude between us, there is only hatred. Bang. Zishan directly destroyed Ho Xuelin's primordial spirit. Rich people were indeed willful. Did they not know how awesome it was to refine a primordial spirit? He looked at the container. He didn't expect Ho Xuelin to raise the price by a third. But this scene scared the people below. Prince Ho was one of the top 10 masters, but his spirit was crushed by his own wife. This was too cruel. Furthermore, the ancient divine artifact on the ground was directly cut into two. What kind of weapon could have such great power? This wasn't a woman at all. This was a demoness, a female bandit. A female demon who kills without blinking an eye. In order to save Yi Hong, Zishan was willing to fall into depravity. Yi Hong had saved Zishan twice. Zishan understood this kindness. Zishan was not a cold-blooded person, and she was touched by Yi Hong's tenacity. You have to learn from Yi Hong if you want to woo a girl. Actually, you can see how good you are to her. As long as you break through her last line of defense, she will be yours from now on. Just like the current Zishan, her heart had already followed Yi Hong. For Yi Hong, she had even started a massacre here, and bathed the entire prince's mansion in blood. After a long while, when Zishan saw that the container was filled with blood, she let out a sigh of relief. Then, Zishan swept her gaze across the surroundings, and saw that there were corpses everywhere. Fresh blood flowed on the bluestone. Not a single person was left alive. After finishing everything, Zishan disappeared from the prince's mansion. However, not long after Zishan disappeared, a large group of people rushed out of the imperial palace and headed towards the prince's mansion. Not only the imperial palace, but there were also people rushing over from all directions. In the dark night, the long line of candles was very easy to recognize. Several groups of people rushed to the entrance of the prince's mansion. Looking at the entire prince's mansion, the smell of blood soared to the sky, and countless wronged souls were screaming and crying. Some of them were Wu Mayan's people, and some were Che Hongliang's people. As for the people who rushed over from the imperial palace, it was the current crown prince, Zhu Jingqing. The crown prince had a dignified appearance and elegant demeanor. His facial features were not a problem at all. If one were to take a look at him, he would indeed be a character. However, Wu Ma knew that the crown prince was actually very dissolute. In the past, he even tried to snatch Zishan from the prince. Unfortunately, he was a Prince Ho, and even the crown prince did not dare to directly snatch Zishan. After all, Prince Ho and His Majesty were sworn brothers. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Wu Man and Che Hongliang respectfully greeted. Crown Prince Zhu Zhengqing looked towards the prince's mansion and said with a grave expression. This crown prince felt a blood light soaring to the sky from the imperial palace, and when I looked around, it was actually the prince's mansion. This crown prince was worried, so I specially brought my personal guards to check it out. Wu Man jumped down from his horse, kneeled on one knee and said, Your Highness the crown prince worries about the subjects and the people. You are my role model. Upon seeing that, Che Hongliang could only get down from his horse and kneel on one knee. After all, he was the crown prince. However, all of the guards kneeled on one knee. Zhu Zhengqing enjoyed this moment very much. He was being supported by everyone. They had clearly come to check on the Prince Ho's mansion, but in the end, they had turned into flattery, and the souls inside were still screaming. All of you get up. Thank you, Crown Prince. Zhu Zhengqing patted the unicorn he was riding on. The unicorn's snow-white fur looked very unique among the group, and it was obvious that he was the boss. Guards, go and take a look at what is happening inside. Zhu Zhengqing shouted gravely. 2 guards replied, then ran to the Prince Ho's mansion's entrance and opened the door. Boom! A blood light actually rushed out from within the Prince Ho's mansion, causing everyone to jump in fright, and the crown prince almost fell down from his horse. Roar! Roar! The blood light transformed into a human face that was screaming nonstop, and there were even more human faces inside the human face. However, the blood light seemed to be unable to rush out of the Prince Ho's mansion, as if it was imprisoned inside. Perhaps even Zishan didn't know about the passive ability of the Dragon Rebel Sword, and that passive ability was able to imprison the souls of the dead, thus achieving the effect of torture. There were countless deaths and injuries in the Prince Ho's mansion, and all of the souls that died had turned into blood light. This kind of thing was extremely rare. It was something that would only happen once in 1,000 years. Che Hongliang looked at the human face that was screaming in front of him and mumbled, This is blood light. After Che Hongliang finished speaking, everyone's expression sunk. Even Wu Ma'an's expression was the same. Only Zhu Zhengqing had a puzzled expression on his face. What the hell is this blood light? Wu Ma, and tell me what this crimson glow is. Zhu Zhengqing asked. Wu Man hurriedly kneeled on the ground and begged for forgiveness. Your Highness, you absolutely cannot tell me this. Zhu Zhengqing snorted coldly. What do you not dare to tell me? Just tell me what I am telling you. But there is no but. Wu Man looked towards Che Hongliang, and the latter turned his face away. The Crown Prince is telling you to tell me, not me. Hurry up. Do you want me to punish you for your crimes? Wu Man hurriedly said. Your Highness, when the blood light appears, the country is in trouble. After hearing what Wu Man said, Zhu Zhengqing went into a daze for a moment, then soon after he laughed loudly. What bullshit is this? Just a blood light is enough to scare all of you to this extent. Your Highness, this matter concerns the fate of the country. It is better for us to report this matter to His Majesty, Che Hongliang suggested. Father has already fallen asleep. How can I, the Crown Prince, not make a decision for such a small matter? Men, follow me inside and take a look at the situation. After finished speaking, Zhu Zhengqing jumped off the horse, pulled out his sword, and took the lead. The sword slashed towards the blood light, and a dazzling golden light emitted out from the tip of the sword, causing the blood light to instantly disperse. Chapter 391. Wu Man and Che Hongliang hurriedly followed after him. Not long after, they saw the Crown Prince vomiting at the side. Zhu Zhengqing was not the only one vomiting. Many soldiers were vomiting as well. Peace had been around for too long, and the soldiers had never seen such a scene. They almost vomited their guts out. When Wu Man and Che Hongliang saw this, they could not help but vomit. Looking at the entire front yard, the scene was indescribably tragic. Basically, there were pieces of corpses, and there were no complete corpses. Moreover, the air was filled with a pungent smell of blood, as well as a foul stench. After all, some of the intestines were exposed, and they were all filthy things. Zhu Zhengqing couldn't take it anymore and ran outside. Unexpectedly, he stepped on something and tripped. His entire face sunk into a person's stomach. The problem was that the stomach was split open. "Your Highness! Your Highness!" Immediately, a group of people rushed over. Many people fell to the ground. The blood on the ground was sticky and had a lubricating effect. A few guards helped the crown prince up and found that the crown prince had fainted. They hurriedly carried him into the palace and summoned the imperial physician. Che Hongliang and Wu Man calmed down a lot, and they silently walked towards the marquis mansion. It turned out that the outside was just an appetizer. The inside was even more terrifying. Who was the one who made this? How inhumane. "Old Che, the marquis should be dead," Wu Man said as he pinched his nose. Che Hongliang frowned deeply. Was Master Ho's death an accident, or was it intentional? After all, many people benefited from Master Ho's death, such as the Crown Prince's faction and his own faction. Report. Found it. A soldier covered in blood ran over to report. Basically, all the soldiers' armors were stained with blood, which was stained when they turned over the corpses. Che Hongliang said in a deep voice, "Bring him here." When they saw Ho Xuelin's corpse, Wu Ma and Che Hongliang were stunned. They knew Master Ho's strength. At this time, Master Ho was divided into 3 parts. His right hand was connected to his head, and his head was divided into 2. From the looks of the wound, it was very neat, cut by a sharp blade. In the morning, the 3 of them were still discussing problems, but in the evening, their entire family was wiped out. The 2 of them couldn't help but wonder if they would have become one of these corpses if they hadn't returned. The answer was obvious. Not long after, the soldiers found Prince Ho's sword. Che Hongliang and Wu Man knew about this sword. It was an ancient divine weapon. It was not easy to obtain. Marquis Wangye's treasured weapon was actually cut in half. Who could have done this? Elder Che, even if His Majesty is resting, you still have to say something. Yes, let's go together. Che Hongliang also knew the seriousness of the matter. The palace was heavily guarded. There were more than 100 buildings of various sizes, but they surrounded the largest palace in the center like guards. However, this night was different from the past. There were many more patrolling soldiers, and the lights in the hall that should have been extinguished were now brightly lit. On both sides of the palace stood solemn-looking guards, all of them armed with swords. According to the rules, guards were not allowed to bring knives into the palace, but the situation today was different. On the throne was a middle-aged man with a dignified appearance. There was a mole at the corner of his mouth, making him look quite unique. He wore a yellow robe and was currently staring downwards. 3 of them were Crown Prince Zhu Zhengqing, Wu Man, and Che Hongliang. The last one was Heavenly Teacher, Ying Wei. This was a white-haired old man, holding a long wooden stick in his hand. It looked very rough, as if it was directly chopped down from a tree. However, when this old man held it in his hand, it instantly felt different. Perhaps this was the aura of the old man. Ho Xuelin, who was covered with a white cloth, was also in the hall. The dim light made the atmosphere in the hall very heavy, making it hard for people to breathe. Zhu Qingxian lightly knocked on the dragon head armrest and muttered, "Blood aura." Yingwei cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, the appearance of the blood aura must be guarded against. In order to avoid danger, this official thinks that the imperial hunt should be cancelled." Zhu Qingxian said gravely, "Heavenly Teacher, let's not talk about the hunt for now. First, investigate the cause of Marquis Wangye's death." "Your Majesty, Marquis Wangye was cut into 3 pieces by a sharp blade," Che Hongliang said respectfully. "Open it and let me take a look." Zhu Zhengqing said hurriedly, "Father, Marquis Wangye died a miserable death, or Crown Prince, according to the order of seniority, you still have to call him uncle. Even I have to call him big brother." "Father, you are right." Wu Man bowed and lifted the white cloth. Although the white cloth had been pieced together, the mark was still there. Everyone couldn't help but frown. When Zhu Qingxian saw Ho Xuelin's corpse, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. It's great that he died. That's right. In the past, they used to address each other as brothers, but this Ho Xuelin relied on his powerful strength and didn't even put the imperial family in his eyes. Furthermore, he had a lot of small tricks up his sleeves. If one day, Ho Xuelin were to usurp the throne, Zhu Qingxian wouldn't be too surprised. Where is Marquis Wangye's primordial spirit? Father, Marquis Wangye's primordial spirit has dissipated. I sensed this fluctuation and woke up from my bed. I went to check on the situation. Zhu Zhengqing could be considered to be smart. He seemed to want to take all the credit for himself. Zhu Chengxian said faintly, Crown Prince, you did well. Che Hongliang slightly frowned. Although this Zhu Zhengqing looks very unrestrained and unrestrained, he is still very smart at times like this. Did you find out who the murderer is? Is it a man or a woman? Is it tall or thin? Zhu Qingxian asked, but he was just putting on a show. He really wanted to reward the murderer. You did a good deed and helped me get rid of a great threat, Ying Wei said respectfully. Judging from the strength and viciousness of the murderer, it should be a man, and he was also holding a special blade. Celestial teacher is right, but is there no one left alive in the Ho Palace? Zhu Qingxian asked curiously. Father, today is Marquis Wangye's birthday. There are many guests present, including Marquis Wangye's family. None of them survived. Zhu Qingxian sighed and murmured, for thousands of years, there has never been such a tragedy in heaven's sanctum. We must get to the bottom of this. Yes. Also, bury Marquis Wangye properly. After all, he was my big brother. Yes. Wu Man cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, Marquis Wangye is already dead. The realm under his jurisdiction cannot be left unguarded. Che Hongliang hurriedly said. However, Zhu Zhengqing was even faster. Father, I am willing to take over temporarily. I will wait for you to find a suitable candidate before handing it over. Che Hongliang cursed at his shamelessness and hurriedly said, Your Majesty, His Highness the Crown Prince already has a realm under his jurisdiction. I am afraid that His Highness the Crown Prince is overworking himself. Chapter 392. Wu Man admired the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince really knows how to speak. Zhu Chengxian smiled faintly and said, Father Emperor is very happy that the Crown Prince has such a thought. Prince Ho's plane will be temporarily handed over to the Crown Prince to look after, and we will choose another candidate in the future. Che Hongliang almost fainted from anger. Temporarily? Isn't this the same as giving the plane to someone else? Choosing another candidate, this is completely perfunctory. At this time, Ying Wei said again, Your Majesty, this hunt? Heavenly Teacher, you are making a big fuss over a small matter. Furthermore, the Huang family's hunt is a big matter for the entire royal family. Which year has it been missing? If it's missing this year, what will the people below talk about it? They will even say that I was scared to the point of trembling in the palace. Is it about this blood-red glow? Heavenly Teacher spoke again. This caused Zhu Qingxian to be a bit unhappy. Heavenly Teacher, these are all legends. But, alright, we will stop here for today. Everyone can disperse. Zhu Qingxian waved his hand and shouted, This Ho Xuelin is dead, and you want me to not celebrate? Seeing the emperor turn around and leave, Ying Wei let out a deep sigh. I would rather believe in the blood-red glow. Your Highness the Crown Prince, everyone, we have to persuade His Majesty about this blood-red glow. Ying Wei cupped his hands towards the three people, and said politely. Zhu Zhengqing knew that Father Emperor thought highly of Heavenly Teacher, so he greeted him with a smile. Heavenly Teacher is too serious, I will definitely pass on the message. Then I will have to trouble Your Highness the Crown Prince. Ying Wei gradually started to be satisfied with this Crown Prince's attitude. Zhu Zhengqing smiled. After everyone dispersed, Wu Man smiled. Congratulations, Crown Prince, for obtaining His Majesty's appreciation and obtaining the right to rule over the plane. This is just a small matter, I can easily get it done. Zhu Zhengqing smiled in disdain. Fight with me, whoever comes will die. Crown Prince is truly right. Wu Man praised. The more power the Crown Prince has, the better. Zhu Zhengqing placed his hands behind his back and said, Go and make arrangements, we will go and find that Nuwa's descendant in a few days. I heard that Nuwa's descendant has a peerless appearance and innate strength. I am truly envious. Yes. Zhu Zhengqing strode towards his bedroom, mumbling to himself. I wonder what kind of peerless beauties are in that plane. Wu Man heard all of this and bitterly smiled. If the crown prince focused on governing, he would definitely be very outstanding. In Long and City's villa, Yi Hua said faintly, "They're here." Yi Hong lay down with a thud. Her face was as pale as a corpse. Qin Yutong was helpless. It was clearly a good thing, but in the end, because of her brother-in-law's actions, it became as if Yi Hong was trying to deceive Zishan. If Zishan were to find out that Yi Hong was deceiving Zishan, Yi Hong would have to blow up the matter. It was one thing for him to lie to his elder sister, but he still had to teach his subordinate. He was speechless. Zishan's body appeared in the living room. Zishan hurriedly walked in front of Yi Hua, then bent down and presented the container and dragon rebel sword to Yi Hua. "Your Honor, everything is done." Yi Hua took a look at the blood qi within the container. This woman, when she starts being vicious and merciless, she is simply inhumane. She is even more savage than me. After keeping the dragon rebel sword, Yi Hua said faintly, "Pour this blood qi into his mouth." Zishan hurriedly stood up and carried Yi Hong, who was stiff all over, then poured her blood qi into Yi Hong's body. Yi Hong was also very cooperative, and her body gradually became ready. When Zishan saw the change in Yi Hong, she felt that everything was worth it, and 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. Yi Hong slowly opened her eyes, and when she saw Zishan, a sincere smile appeared on her face. On the other hand, Zishan appeared to be a lot more unrestrained. In front of so many people, Zishan directly kissed Yi Hong's mouth. This was domineering. Looking at Uncle Wei, Tang Wei also felt envious in her heart. Uncle Wei doesn't even know how to kiss right now. Qin Yutong could not help but sigh. Even the cola is being poked by someone. Why is there no one poking me? Do you believe that I won't order you to break up immediately and never see each other again? Let's go, let's return. Yi Hua said gravely. Your Honor, I will send you back. Wei Chong hurriedly followed after Wei Chong. Green and Red brothers, Dai and Zishan shouted out respectfully, Farewell, Your Honor. After His Honor left, Yi Hong felt a bit embarrassed, and she didn't even dare to look straight at Zishan. Right now, the two of them were no longer bound by the shackles, and Yi Hong had also pierced through the layer of paper. Of course, there was still the final layer of paper that was not pierced through. Big Brother Green said with a smile, I'm going to sleep. You guys do as you please, but keep your voice down. Yi Hong's face reddened as she scratched onto the back of her head and said, I'm going to take a bath first. I'll get the hot water for you. No need, no need. I can get the hot water myself. Yi Hong didn't dare to let Zishan do anything else. Walking into the bedroom, Yi Hong finished taking a bath while feeling nervous. Yi Hong discovered that Zishan was actually already lying on the bed. Right now, without the restriction of distance, they are able to sleep in separate rooms. Yi Hua thought to himself that Zishan might have gotten used to sleeping on the bed. I'm going to sleep on the other side. Yi Hong said in a low voice. Zishan, who was lying on the bed, had a light red face. Husband and wife have to sleep together. What do you mean by going to sleep on the other side? Are you going to divorce me? Alright, this is Zishan's original personality. She is very straightforward, and of course, she is also a bit hot-tempered. Of course not. Then why aren't you coming over? Yi Hong had no other choice but to go over to Zishan and spread out the bed on the floor just like before. Zishan was almost speechless. I already made it so obvious. Go to the bed and sleep. Go to the bed and sleep. Zishan really couldn't take it anymore. Every time I say something, he will move a bit. Yi Hong said in a low voice. No need, I'm fine sleeping here. If I tell you to go to the bed, then go to the bed. But I feel that. Yi Hong mumbled. What's the matter? Yi Hong let out a breath, then said gravely, Zishan, I will work hard. When the day comes that I reach your height, I will sleep together with you. If not hearing that, Zishan laughed tenderly. This idiot. However, I like him being like this and I am looking forward to Yi Hong's growth. Alright, I won't force you then, hubby. Zishan said sweetly. Hearing Zishan calling him hubby, Yi Hong almost screamed out in excitement. I feel that everything I do is worth it, and I have motivation to do everything. Yi Hong was filled with confidence. Hubby, you can be at ease. I will make you feel proud. And I am looking forward to that day. However, That day was still far away, causing Zishan to regret agreeing to Yihang's request. In the entire team, there were 3 people who were living like widows. The first was Sun Fong. She really couldn't do anything when facing a skeleton. The second was Tang Wei. She kept hinting at Wei Chong, but there was no reaction from Wei Chong. The third was Zishan. She was regretting agreeing to Yihang's request. If there was one more person, they would be able to form a table of mahjong. In the future, they wouldn't need a man anymore. They would just sit together and play mahjong every day. Comparatively speaking, Lai Gu's 3 wives were much happier, and Zhu Tian's 2 maids were both in pain and happiness at the same time. As the boss, Yihua was currently in a cold war. Compared to his subordinates, Yihua's situation had once again verified Qing Yutong's words. Chapter 393. After getting down from Wei Chang's luxurious Qian, Qing Yutong held onto Yihua's arm and said with a smile, "Brother-in-law, you are pretty good as a matchmaker. Why don't you pay attention to your own matters? Sai, let's go to Zhu Tian's place tomorrow to freeload a meal. While we're at it, we can also go and ask how the progress is. It has already been more than a month." Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. "It has already been a month since we last met, and I am indeed starting to miss Zhu Tian a bit." Qing Yutong said tenderly, "Brother-in-law, since you want to go and take a look, why don't you go and take a look at the child?" Hearing his sister-in-law's suggestion, Yihua's eyes lit up. This is indeed a good idea. However, he quickly denied it. If he appeared, wouldn't that mean that he had lost? That wouldn't do. "Not going." "Fine, I've already said this many times, but brother-in-law, you're the one who doesn't listen." The 2 of them walked into the leisure bar. There was actually not a single customer inside. The business was already extremely bad. Yihua said gravely, "There are 4 people who skipped work tonight: Wei Chong, Tang Wei, the Green and Red brothers. 200 from each of you." Qing Yutong was speechless. "You are a supreme overlord, and right now, you are even swindling your little brother's money." On the evening of the second day, Yihua brought along his sister-in-law and arrived at Zijin University. Afterward, Yihua went to look for Zhu Tian. Zhu Tian brought his honor to the teacher's dormitory. Yihua sized up the room, and the room was even smaller than the room that I live in. "Zhu Tian, what are you going to eat tonight?" Yihua asked absent-mindedly. Zhu Tian stood at the side and said respectfully, "Your Honor, instant noodles." Yihua, Qing Yutong. Zhu Tian thought that his honor was worried about his food and drink, thus he hurriedly said, "Your Honor, there are many different flavors of instant noodles. You can be at ease. Subordinate won't get tired of eating instant noodles." "When did I ask you if you were tired of eating? As the brains of the team, don't you know how to treat a meal?" Yihua said gravely, "Let's find a place to eat first while we talk." "All right, Your Honor. Please follow me." As expected of a smart person, his brain worked quite fast. 10 minutes later, Yihua sat on the small stool and looked at the claypot rice in front of him, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Qing Yutong looked at Zhu Tian, then looked at his bowl of vegetables. He had finally found a subordinate who was even more miserable than his brother-in-law. And it wasn't just an ordinary kind of misery. Zhu Tian was also very embarrassed to actually bring his honor to such a small place for a meal. Zhu Tian hurriedly explained, "Your Honor, Yin Xian recently had a falling out with her family, and all of her funds were cut off. You didn't have much money to begin with, so she has been living frugally. Right now, they are even working at night to earn money." Yihua, Qing Yutong. Yihua felt that it would be better for him not to come and look for absolute heaven in the future. Absolute heaven is just too miserable. I reckon that even treating absolute heaven to a meal would cost him his life. While eating, Yihua felt very helpless. This is what it means to enjoy life. There is bitterness, but it is also rather interesting. "Your Honor, I have a plan in mind," Zhu Tian said. Yihua drank a mouthful of kelp soup. "Speak." "There's no point in continuing to investigate like this. Why don't we lure the snake out of its hole?" Yihua placed down his chopsticks and became serious. "Be more detailed." In the past, Dongfang family's influence was too big, and they had gained a lot of benefits when distributing the longevity fruits. This was the reason why the 5 great families had the intention to kill them. If we were to imitate what happened back then, the 5 great families would definitely not be able to sit still. Furthermore, during this period of time, the 5 great families have been fighting with each other, causing some families to complain. This is a good opportunity. After listening to Zhu Tian's plan, Yihua felt that it was feasible. It was a good idea to face the current predicament. Alright, let's do that. Yihua's mood while eating became a bit better, as if he could already see his 2 wives retreating in defeat and returning home obediently. Zhu Tian stretched out his palm and poked Yihua with his thumb and index finger. Yihua's expression turned cold. What do you mean by this? Are you here to talk about money with me? Don't you know that talking about money is very hurtful to one's feelings? Your Honor, I need some startup funds. Yihua paused for a moment. If it's tens of thousands of RMB, I will just pool them together. If it's more than that, there's no way for me to talk anymore. How much? Yihua asked. Zhu Tian had already calculated the amount, and he said in a low voice, 500 billion is more or less enough. Qing Yutong spurted out her food. 500 billion? Brother-in-law doesn't even have 5,000 RMB on him. And even big sister doesn't have 500 billion. You might as well ask brother-in-law to go and rob others. As a supreme overlord, would you go and do such a lowly thing? Yihua looked at Zhu Tian, then immediately lowered his head. Zhu Tian, you are a smart person, and you even need money to solve such a small matter? I am very disappointed in you. Your Honor, subordinate is wrong. Qing Yutong was very speechless. Brother-in-law is simply, as brother-in-law's subordinate, it seems like my life is so bitter. It's good that you know that you are wrong. Is a problem that can be solved with money still a problem? If I let you solve such a problem, wouldn't it be a waste of your talents? I am very optimistic about you. Yihua continued, with an expression of, I am very optimistic about you. However, if you want money, sorry, I don't have a single cent. Zhu Tian was terrified. Subordinate understands. Subordinate will definitely do my best to solve this problem. That's more like it. Eat more, this meal is free. Qing Yutong. After finishing eating, Zhu Tian touched his pocket, and his expression changed. Your Honor, I forgot to bring my wallet. Check WeChat. Yihua said faintly. Your Honor, I don't have WeChat yet. Qing Yutong was already crying from laughing while hiding at the side. Brother-in-law came to freeload a meal, and in the end he was freeloaded by his subordinate. As expected of a smart person, Yihua nearly flipped out, and when Zhu Tian felt his Honor's ice-cold gaze, he was so scared that he started trembling. I really forgot to bring my wallet, I didn't do it on purpose. After checking WeChat, Yihua said coldly, Yutong, let's go. Your Honor, take care. Zhu Tian said in a low voice. Looking at his Honor leaving, Zhu Tian let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, I didn't get my salary today. However, after coming to Zijin City, Yihua would naturally bring his sister-in-law to taste the snacks of Zijin City. Inside Ji family's ruins, 5 figures appeared. Of course, they were Crown Prince Zhu Zhengqing and his lackey Wu Man. The other 3 men were very strange. Their height was exactly the same. They looked exactly the same. In any case, they looked exactly the same. The triplets were experts that Zhu Zhengqing subdued. Originally, Zhu Zhengqing wanted to bring more people with him just in case. However, after thinking about it, I am already an unrivaled existence in this low-level plane, let alone experts like these. I am being too careful. Stepping on the ruins, Zhu Zhengqing said mockingly. This is one of Prince Ho's 3 big shots? This is how he looks like? What a weakling. Wu Ma'an's mind was still considered to be nimble. Sensing that there was a faint godly might in this place, Wu Ma'an reminded, Your Highness Crown Prince, there is still a godly might remaining in this place. Chapter 394. Crown Prince, for His Highness to be able to make deities release their divine might, he must have met his match. As the Crown Prince's military advisor, Wu Ma, and was smart enough to guess this. However, the Crown Prince only knew how to bootlick, or perhaps he only knew how to be greedy. Zhu Zhengqing snorted coldly. That means your skills are inferior. Your Highness, it's possible that the person who killed the Lord's mansion is hiding in this plane. The more Wu Man thought about it, the more scared he became. He wanted to persuade the crown prince to leave immediately. Zhu Zhengqing glared at Wu Man and shouted, "Who the hell are you?" Wu Man was so frightened that he immediately knelt down. Of course it's His Highness the Crown Prince's men. That's it. This Ho Xuelin was still hiding the Donghuang clan. He has ulterior motives. Zhu Zhengqing saw it when he came over to search. He had to admit that he was a little excited when he saw it. The Donghuang clan had been one of the most powerful beings among all the gods. Of course, there was also the Nuwa clan. It would be great if he could subdue the two clans this time. Go. Let's meet the Donghuang clan first. Zhu Zhengqing was a little impatient. He had come with the identity of a crown prince, and he could get whatever he wanted. If anyone dared to disobey him, he would kill them. Wu Man reminded in a low voice. Crown Prince, if there are any awakened ones in the Eastern Emperor clan, we still have to be careful. That Nuwa clan has already awakened. Zhu Zhengqing smiled disdainfully. Wu Man, why are you still acting so cowardly in this low-level world? Your Highness, this subordinate has a bad premonition. How about we go back? Zhu Zhengqing's eyes turned cold. If you want to go back yourself. Don't appear beside this crown prince in the future. Wu Man had no choice but to follow. Right now, Voidless Realm had already regained its former glory. Just that, the population of Voidless Realm had to slowly increase. After all, back then a lot of people had died in that battle. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were sitting in the courtyard, and they were actually learning how to knit sweaters. It seemed like he was bored out of his mind. Ali, come over. Qingye called out tenderly. Donghuang Li ran all the way over to Qingye, then consciously opened up her hands and gestured towards Qingye. Go and play. However, before Donghuang Li could even play with it, Donghuang Baiji shouted out again. Ali, come here. Donghuang Li felt very helpless. Donghuang Li could only run over to her mother's side and spread out her hands. All right, go play. Donghuang Li looked at the two adults and let out a deep sigh. I wonder if Daddy is that free. Suddenly, Qingye frowned. Qingye, what's wrong? Donghuang Baiji immediately sensed that Qingye was acting strangely. Someone's coming. It is the same as last time, Qingye said gravely. Donghuang Baiji let out a breath. Looks like they still came. I'll go and deal with them. And I will go with you. Qingye naturally wouldn't let Donghuang Baiji deal with this matter by herself. However, Donghuang Baiji thought that it was those fellows who reported her disrespectful behavior to the higher-ups, and that the higher-ups were here to punish her. Donghuang Baiji looked at Qingye's stomach. But your stomach is all ready. It's all right, I am confident. Qingye could feel that the life force of the little fellow in her stomach was very strong. Donghuang Baiji took a deep breath. All right then. Ali, stay here and don't come out. Donghuang Li naturally knew that something big had happened. After the two adults left, Donghuang Li silently shouted out in her heart. Uncle Wei, are you there? Wei Chong, who was far away in Long and City, received Little Sovereign's private message and hurriedly replied. Little Ali, what happened? Is Daddy there? There are bad guys coming. They want to bully Mommy. Donghuang Li choked with sobs. This little fellow sure is good at acting. Ali, don't cry. Uncle Wei will go and inform your daddy right now. And tell Daddy to hurry over. After ending the call, Donghuang Li's expression changed. Daddy should be coming over very soon. And then when he sees Mommy, his feelings of lovesickness will immediately explode. And then he will put Mommy down. And then, Ali can't think anymore. Ali is still a child. At a food street in Zijin City, Yihua and his sister-in-law sat on a small stool and bought 20 RMB worth of stinky tofu. After waiting for a long time, the stinky tofu was finally served. Boss, why is it so little? Yihua shouted out unhappily. Handsome little pot, this is a small business. I even added another piece for you. Yihua said gravely. How can that do? Add another piece. Good things come in pairs. The boss laughed, then said, all right, I will add another piece for you. Qing Yutong smiled bitterly. So brother-in-law is actually this good at bargaining. I really didn't expect this. Yihua picked up a piece of black stinky tofu, stuffed it into his mouth, and chewed on it. The soup completely exploded in his mouth, and that refreshing feeling was incomparable. The outside of the stinky tofu was crispy, and the inside of the stinky tofu was incomparably tender. One word, refreshing. Looking at brother-in-law's infatuated look, Qing Yutong originally didn't want to eat the stinky tofu, because the stinky tofu smells bad. Picking up a piece of stinky tofu, Qing Yutong prepared to bite a small piece to try. Wait a minute! Yihua suddenly shouted out. And Qing Yutong asked puzzledly. Yihua said faintly, "This stinky tofu needs to be eaten in one bite for it to feel good. If you eat it like this, you won't be able to feel it." "But my mouth is only so big, I can't stuff it in." After finished speaking, she opened her cherry lips and showed Yihua that her mouth was really only so big, "I can't stuff it in. Let me help you." Yihua picked up a piece of stinky tofu. "Make your mouth bigger, that's right, keep your tongue in, keep your teeth in." After finished speaking, Yihua stuffed the stinky tofu into his mouth. "Hold it in your mouth first and feel that tender taste. Isn't it a bit strong? Do you want to bite it in one bite? Don't hesitate then." After Yihua finished speaking, Qing Yutong chewed on the stinky tofu and closed her beautiful eyes. Brother-in-law is right. Looking at his sister-in-law's satisfied look, Yihua nodded his head. Sharing my happiness with others can also make me happy. Just that, not long after, Yihua regretted, because Qing Yutong began snatching to eat the stinky tofu. If I didn't share just now, all the stinky tofu would be mine. Sharing would only invite others to snatch it. Looking at brother-in-law's resentful look, Qing Yutong acted coquettishly and consoled him. "Didn't I just eat a few more pieces? Look at how stingy he is." "Your Honor, Young Honor just sent a secret report. The madams are in trouble." Wei Chong hurriedly contacted His Honor. Hearing that, Yihua's expression sunk. "I got it." Seeing that brother-in-law's expression suddenly changed, Qing Yutong knew that something had happened. "Brother-in-law, what happened?" "Something happened to your big sister." After finished speaking, Qing Yutong disappeared along with Qing Yutong. Arriving at Voidless Realm, Wei Chong quickly rushed over. The three of them were in invisible state and did not reveal themselves. Yihua was still very cautious. After all, it was very possible that his daughter had rebelled against him and came to cheat him, her father. However, sensing a few different auras, Yihua knew that his daughter wasn't lying. They were indeed in trouble. Chapter 395. Besides, if the deity were to appear now, he would definitely be ridiculed by them. Of course, there was another possibility. He would appear now and save the damsel in distress. Then he would return with the damsel in distress and repeat the same trick. However, who was Yihua? Playing that kind of trick once was enough. If he were to play it again, it would be meaningless. Let's look at the situation first. With Qingya's ability, she should be able to defeat Ali. After all, Ali has already learned Deviant Fire. Although it is a weakened version of Deviant Fire, it is still very powerful. It would be fine as long as there were no accidents. However, these 5 people were really bold. I didn't go to look for you, but you came to find trouble with me. Furthermore, you directly went to find my woman. Last time, I already said something. You can't afford to offend my woman. Brother-in-law, are you not planning to make a move? The three of them stood at a corner of the palace, and Qing Yutong asked curiously. Yihua said faintly, "Take action? You're thinking too much. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would casually make a move?" "But they are your wives." Qing Yutong was in disbelief. Is brother-in-law really going to be so ruthless this time? It's good for them to suffer a little. Only then will they know how important the reliability of this sovereign is. Qing Yutong was also speechless. Looking at my wife being bullied? Brother-in-law's heart was really big. Of course, Yihua wouldn't allow his wife to be bullied for no reason. When one becomes a tool, one must have the despair of being a tool. Since you all came to look for trouble with me today, then you all must consider that I, the Supreme Overlord, will also go and look for trouble with you all. Wei Chong, who was at the back, hurriedly recorded down His Honor's words, so that it would be convenient for him and Tang Bingyao to use. Recently, Tang Bingyao's temper has been very bad, causing her to feel very uncomfortable. In the palace, Dong Huang Baiji, who was wearing a purple gown, was sitting on the throne, and below her was Crown Prince Zhu Zhenqing. However, when Zhu Zhenqing saw Dong Huang Baiji's appearance, he was completely stupefied. Such a woman doesn't even exist in my father's harem. This is what a truly stunning beauty looks like. A stunning beauty that is capable of starting a war. No wonder Ho Xuelin wanted to raise her. It turned out that he had hidden such a beauty here. He was really lucky to have found her today. Wu Man knew what the Crown Prince was thinking. He was definitely thinking of seizing this woman. It had to be said that this woman was perfect. She had an imposing manner and temperament. She was indeed the best candidate to be the princess. At this time, Yuanda and the others stood on both sides, watching the 5 people in the middle with vigilance. "Who are you people?" Dong Huang Baiji asked faintly. "How dare you?" Wu Man shouted angrily. As someone from a low-class world, he really didn't have any self-awareness at all. When he saw the Crown Prince, he still didn't kneel. Yihua was very stingy. This man actually dared to shout at my wife. Yihua said to Wei Chang, "Record down this man's name." "Yes, Your Honor." Qing Yutong rolled her eyes at her brother-in-law. "Are you planning to settle the scores after the fall? And you still don't want to let the big sisters know about it?" Zhu Zhenqing immediately stopped his subordinate and said politely, "This one is the Crown Prince of Heaven's Sanctum, Zhu Zhenqing." Crown Prince. The hall was in an uproar. The person who came last time claimed to be from the Marquis residence, but today the Crown Prince actually came. Something big was about to happen. Dong Huang Baiji seemed to have also sensed that the arrival of the Crown Prince was definitely not a good thing. The 3 men standing behind them were emitting out ferocious aura, and they were very hard to deal with. "For what matter did Your Highness Crown Prince come here today?" Dong Huang Baiji asked. Those 3 people must have gone back to inform on Crown Prince. However, what Dong Huang Baiji did not know was that those 3 people, along with their boss, were all killed in a single night. Zhu Zhenqing revealed out a gentle smile. He looked very comfortable, just like a warm man. Yihua said faintly, "Record down this Zhu Zhenqing's name." Qing Yutong clicked her tongue a few times. He is already getting jealous just like this? No wonder Big Sister said that brother-in-law is the king of jealousy in the cultivation world. Zhu Zhenqing looked at Dong Huang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne. "I really want to conquer a woman like this. The process should be very exciting. Shouldn't the Empress grant me a seat?" Zhu Zhenqing said with a slightly teasing tone. Upon thinking that the other party was the Crown Prince, and that the other party had brought along 3 valiant generals, in order to protect Voidless Realm, Dong Huang Baiji had no choice but to take a step back. "Men, grant me a seat." However, Zhu Zhenqing directly sat at the center of the throne, facing the Empress. "Audacious!" Xing Han shouted out angrily. This kind of behavior was a huge disrespect towards the Empress. "You are the audacious one," Wu Man shouted out coldly. "To actually speak rudely towards a Crown Prince of a deity," Zhu Zhenqing shouted out gravely. "Wu Man, can you not speak?" "Subordinate obeys." Zhu Zhenqing laughed. "Subordinate is truly sorry. Subordinate was lacking in manners." Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, "It's fine. But, Your Majesty, your subordinate was lacking in manners as well. To shout at a Crown Prince like me, in my world, he would be sentenced to death." Zhu Zhenqing said faintly. "This is a trap." Dong Huang Baiji calculated in her heart. The other party is the Crown Prince of Deity Realm, and he has a huge army under his control. If I were to be disrespectful towards him, I would be inviting a fatal disaster upon myself. At that time, the entire Voidless Realm would be implicated as well. When one is under the eaves of another, one has no choice but to lower one's head. I apologize to Your Majesty for my subordinate's disrespectful behavior." Dong Huang Baiji said helplessly. Yihua said faintly, "Add this Zhu Zhenqing's descendant as well." "Yes." Hearing what Dong Huang Baiji said, Zhu Zhenqing suddenly became enlightened. "Because this is a good empress who loves her subordinate. With this, I will be able to endlessly threaten her." "Your Majesty, you are being too courteous. We are all family. There is no need for you to apologize." Zhu Zhenqing grinned and teased. Yi Hua said faintly. At his previous generation as well. Yes. Donghuang Baiji naturally understood the meaning behind Yi Hua's words and said coldly, Your Majesty, please be a bit more respectful. Your Majesty, I have already respected you enough. Don't fail to appreciate my kindness. Zhu Jingqing's eyes revealed out a trace of brilliance. Just what are you trying to do? Donghuang Baiji, I have been unable to sleep at night recently, and I lack someone to warm my bed. I feel that you are qualified to do so. Zhu Jingqing's words caused Donghuang Baiji to burn with anger. However, her rationality told her that she mustn't get angry, because if she were to get angry, the entire voidless realm would be buried together with her. Yi Hua said coldly, Remember all 18 generations of this Zhu Jingqing's ancestors. Yes. Qing Yutong wanted to observe a moment of silence for this crown prince who is currently acting cool. Your entire family is already on brother-in-law's death list. They are going to be finished. Donghuang Baiji said gravely. Your Majesty sure knows how to joke. Your Majesty is smart and quick-witted. You naturally know whether I am joking or not. Since you are so hesitant, I will give you a bit of motivation. Zhu Jingqing waved his hand. One of the triplets could be seen suddenly disappearing. When the triplet reappeared, the triplet had already grabbed onto Xing Han's neck and raised him up high. Don't. Donghuang Baiji suddenly stood up. Chapter 396. However, Qingya, who was hiding at the back, was a bit faster. Stretching out her slender finger, a green light shot out and forced the first brother to let go of Xing Han. And when Qingya walked out from the back, Zhu Jingqing's face was filled with greed. However, this greedy expression was seen by Yi Hua, and Yi Hua said gravely, Wei Chong, write them down for me. Yes. Qing Yutong lightly sighed. Why is there a need to do this? Wouldn't it be better to just directly rush over and exterminate them? Long hair, short experience. If I were to rush over and get killed right now, what kind of effect would that have? Would Qingya and Donghuang Baiji be moved? Of course not. At that time, there was a possibility that they might even talk about it. Yi Hua, why are you so impulsive? This is the crown prince. Right now, Yi Hua wasn't being impulsive anymore. Right now, I want to teach my wives a lesson. After I am done, I will go and teach this crown prince a lesson. I want to let this crown prince know that acting cool in front of me is the same as acting cool. Looking at Qingya, who was leisurely walking over, Zhu Jingqing revealed a stupefied look. This woman is beautiful. They were so beautiful that they couldn't even be found in the entire heaven's sanctum. These two women were simply the best of the best. If he could be brought into the palace, why would he need to be an emperor? He could even be a subject under the skirt of others. Suddenly, when Zhu Jingqing saw Qingya's slightly bulging lower abdomen, his face stiffened. Following which, his face started to turn sinister, and the veins on his forehead started to bulge. He couldn't even get his first time with such a woman. This was a huge insult and mockery to him. Which damned man is it? This prince will cut that man into 13 pieces. Whose child is this? Zhu Jingqing lost his patience. He stood up and asked, releasing a divine might that made others submit. Qingya looked at the man below and said indifferently, What does it have to do with you? Of course it's related to me. This prince has taken a fancy to the two of you. Zhu Jingqing wildly laughed. He wished he could capture them right now and torture them. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. The two women were thinking of the same thing. If Yi Hua was here and heard this man's arrogant words, how would he react? That kind of reaction would be explosive, and this crown prince would deeply regret his choice of words. Qingya smiled sweetly. This caused Zhu Jingqing to be stupefied. Donghuang Baiji gave off a cold and arrogant aura, while this woman gave off a gentle aura. Comfortable. If that's the case, I'm really sorry, we already have a man. Qingya said indifferently. Donghuang Baiji added, Furthermore, it's the same person. Yi Hua felt that it was time for him to make an appearance, and he even had to make an appearance in a dazzling manner. Yi Hua shouted out, That is me. You bunch of salted fishes actually dared to spy on my lovely wife. However, he still endured it. Acting cool was a moment of pleasure, but what about the latter part of the sentence? When Zhu Zhengqing heard this answer, he instantly lost his composure. Who? In this world, apart from me, no one else can have beauties like you. Impossible. Donghuang Baiji stood up, and when the two women stood together, they immediately looked extremely beautiful. Even Wu Man was dazed. Donghuang Baiji was too beautiful. There was actually such a woman in such a lowly world. No wonder the Marquis wanted to keep it a secret. He probably wanted to enjoy it for himself. Of course there is. Furthermore, in his eyes you are nothing. Donghuang Baiji said coldly. With Yi Hua supporting her, Donghuang Baiji was very confident. Although they were currently in a cold war, Donghuang Baiji knew that if something were to happen, Yi Hua would definitely not sit by and do nothing. Qingye added on indifferently. At most, he can be considered as a dried salted fish. Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, laughed lightly. These two women acting cool together is rather interesting. However, this is good as well. When facing a strong opponent, the two of you will think of me. Audacious. You actually dare to insult His Highness the Crown Prince, and even said that His Highness the Crown Prince is a salted fish. Wu Man took a step forward, pointed his finger at the two women and shouted out. The veins on Zhu Zhengqing's forehead bulged out, and because he was angry his face became red. Ask him to come out, and let me have a look at him then. Donghuang Baiji suddenly laughed, then said, Do you think that my husband is someone that you can meet whenever you want to? The corner of Qingye's mouth revealed out a clever arc as she said proudly, My husband is 8 feet tall, he has a very graceful bearing, he is solemn, frank and clear. He has the bearing of a dragon and a phoenix. His face is like the moon of mid-autumn. His complexion is like the flowers of the dawn of spring. His hair is like a knife, his eyebrows are like a painting, his eyes are like autumn waves, and although he is angry, he would sometimes smile, and his gaze is filled with both anger and affection. Following Qingye's words, the entire place quietened down. Yi Hua, who was hiding at the side, rubbed onto his chin. I didn't expect that all of my good points would be pointed out by Qingye. Seems like Qingye's eyesight is rather good. Bonus points. Bonus points for all of my good points. Why didn't I say it earlier? Wei Chang took out a small notebook and noted down everything that His Honor said. What your wife said made His Honor very happy. Qing Yutong seemed to have a very cold look on her face as she hugged her arms. Big sister's words are simply praising brother-in-law to the sky. Look at brother-in-law's proud look. Donghuang Baiji was also astonished. The first sentence that Donghuang Baiji spoke was already off the mark. Is Yi Hua 8 feet long? It should be described with inches, right? Could it be that the two of us are not using the same thing? Zhu Zhengqing and the others were stupefied. She actually asked me where my face came from? Young lady, do you even have any face left? And she even said that I have a disgusting face. You. Not bad. Do you think that just because I like you, you can be arrogant and despotic? Donghuang Baiji said in disdain. Your Highness, please take back your liking, you are making me want to vomit. Baiji, don't hurt your body, if not our man will feel heartache. Zhu Zhengqing couldn't take it anymore and shouted out angrily, Fine. Today, I am going to capture you two and exterminate your voidless realm. I am going to let you two know that my dignity is not to be humiliated. The two women's beautiful pupils tensed up. They had already made their preparations for battle. Today either they die or I die. Voidless realm, listen to my command, kill all of them. Donghuang Baiji shouted out. Zhu Zhengqing sneered. Voidless realm, offend your superiors, kill all of them. Yi Hua looked at the development of the situation silently. His gaze was deep, but he didn't have the intention to take action. Brother-in-law, are we still watching? Qing Yutong was puzzled. If we were to rush out right now, the effect would be very good, and the misunderstanding would also disappear. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. They still have a lot of things to learn. Sometimes, failure is also a good thing, as they are able to clearly see their own inadequacies. What your honor said is very true. Lang Ye's beauty is unparalleled in this world. Wei Chang hurriedly flattered, causing Qing Yutong to feel so cold that she wanted to hug her brother-in-law's body tightly. Yi Hua was at ease with Qing Ye's strength. After all, Qingye, who had awakened her bloodline, was stronger than Donghuang Baiji. Thinking up to here, Yihua felt that he had to increase Donghuang Baiji's strength. If not, when he is outside, he would have to worry about their safety. Chapter 397. Qingye was able to fight against the triplets by herself, and was still not defeated. This made Zhu Zhengqing and Wu Man feel very surprised. I didn't expect that the Niwa clan would be so powerful. While Donghuang Baiji was only able to pin down Zhu Zhengqing, this gave Wu Man a chance to show off his skills. Wu Man immediately rushed into Voidless Realm and started killing. Kill them all. Kill everyone here. Zhu Zhengqing, who was fighting against Donghuang Baiji, shouted out loudly. As you wish. After speaking, Wu Man slashed towards a child. At this moment, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji turned pale with fright. Ali. It was indeed Donghuang Li. When she heard the sounds of fighting, she came over to help. Daddy is probably stuck in a traffic jam. Seeing that Ali was about to get injured, Qing Yutong hurriedly shook Yihua's arm. Brother-in-law. Ali. Quickly go, quickly go. Don't mess around. Ali is stronger than you. Yihua pinched onto his sister-in-law's face. He was very assured towards his daughter. Not to mention, my daughter is the strongest mini-boss here. Donghuang Li raised her head and looked towards Wu Man. Her baby fat face was blown by the astral wind that Wu Man emitted. This bad uncle is truly shameless, to actually bully a child. Ali. Quickly dodge. Donghuang Baiji shouted out loudly. If mommy wants Ali to dodge, then Ali will just dodge. Boom. Smoke filled the air, and small stones flew all over the place. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji stopped what they were doing and looked at the scene in a daze. Zhu Zhenqing has a sinister smile on his face. As for that Wu Man, it seems like he has done something very awesome. He appeared very savage. However, when the smoke dispersed, Wu Man saw a small figure appear. It's her. She actually stood on top of my sword. How is this possible? Zhu Zhengqing was also stupefied. This can't be an old demon, right? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji let out a breath of relief. That scene just now nearly scared their souls away. Qing Yutong patted onto her towering chest. Fortunately, she is fine. Wei Cheng revealed a light smile. Since his honor is already so young, he will definitely become an overlord when he grows up. What is there to worry about with these women? Ali possesses my bloodline, and from the day she was born, she is already destined to be extraordinary. Who are you? Wu Ma's eyes opened wide, and he looked as if he had just seen a ghost. His strength was indeed a little weak, but in this low-level world, he was still an invincible existence. Today, however, he was played by a child. Ali isn't going to tell you. Donghuang Li pouted her small mouth, looking very tsundere. The more Wu Man thought about it, the angrier he became. He had lost face in front of the crown prince, and it was all because of this child. I'll kill you. 5 consecutive 6 slashes. Wu Man raised his hand, and a terrifying spiritual energy burst out. Tens of thousands of sword shadows attacked the small figure with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. Instantly, the sword chi crisscrossed, causing everyone to exclaim in admiration. Was this the might of a deity? The huge consumption caused Wu Ma's breathing to become ragged. This little brat should be dead. However, not far away, Zhu Zhengqing was dumbfounded. This was impossible. Donghuang Li could be seen standing on Wu Ma's shoulder with her hands crossed behind her back. Donghuang Li had a very profound look on her face. Looking at his daughter's appearance, Yihua laughed lightly. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji let out a sigh of relief. However, just who did she learn this expression from? If not for the fact that Donghuang Li was still very young right now, her face would definitely be even more shocking. However, right now, Donghuang Li's appearance was very cool. Wu Man's entire body shivered as he slowly turned his head around. Bad uncle, you are so weak. Donghuang Li laughed. I was called weak by a child. I am the son of a general. I am the favorite of His Highness the Crown Prince. Yet today in this low-level world, I was called weak by a child. I am definitely unable to endure this. Wu Man, whose face was completely red, began swelling up. This wasn't the swelling of his mentality, This was the swelling of his body. Dong Huangli lightly leaped onto the ground, then asked curiously, "Are you Hulk?" "Green is impossible, but red is very red." Wu Man's small and weak body actually swelled up to 3 meters tall, and the muscles on his entire body became as tough as stone. Those thick and solid blood vessels on his body seemed to be filled with power. Roar, roar, roar. Wu Man patted on his chest, then raised his gigantic fist and punched towards Dong Huangli. This punch of his was just like the power of a mountain. Blood surged, and it seemed as if no matter how hard steel was, it would still turn into powder under this punch. Go and die. White spiritual energy gushed out from Wu Ma's body like spring water, and the sound of wind being torn apart could be heard. Dong Huangli pursed her lips, then stretched out her palm. Bang! Wu Man's gigantic fist smashed onto Dong Huangli's small and fleshy palm, and a shockwave was actually created that spread towards the surroundings. Wu Man's feet even sank deep into the ground. After the smoke dispersed, Wu Man's tall and sturdy body was actually looking at Dong Huangli in a daze. "What kind of monster are you?" Wu Man asked stupidly. Ali is not a monster. Ali is daddy and mommy's good daughter. You are the monster," Dong Huangli said angrily. While puffing out her cheeks, Dong Huangli seemed to be saying, "If you still want to scold me, then I won't be polite anymore." Wu Man raised his head and roared, then shouted out angrily, "I am a deity. You lowly and despicable low-level races actually dare to insult me. I am going to use my fists to crush you all. I also want a..." Before Wu Man could finish his words, Dong Huangli's small hand could be seen grabbing onto Wu Man's thumb, then swung her small arm. Wu Man, who was 3 meters tall and weighed at least a few hundred kilograms, was actually swung high into the air, then fiercely smashed onto the ground. This was not the end. Dong Huangli swung left and right, and Wu Man was just like a doll that was being swung around by Dong Huangli's petite body. Bang, 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 bang. Everyone was stupefied as they looked at Dong Huangli foolishly. In the end, Dong Huangli ruthlessly smashed onto the ground, then snorted, "What a weak deity." Right now, Wu Man had already fainted from being smashed. It was fortunate that he didn't hear what Dong Huangli said. If not, he would definitely have fainted from anger. After jumping over Wu Man's body, Dong Huangli placed her hands on her waist and looked at Zhu Jingqing and the others. "You bad guys are already surrounded by Ali. Be tactful and raise your hands to surrender. If not, Ali is going to get angry." Ali has watched too many police and bandit movies. After all, our entire family are bandits, not police. Qing Yutong's beautiful face became soft. "I really want to hug Ali. She is so cute. Little sovereign is very courageous." Wei Chong gave the highest evaluation of Ali. Zhu Jingqing was already suppressed by Ali, and right now he was also a bit flustered. "Capture this child for me." "Yes, Your Highness Crown Prince." The triplets immediately pounced towards Dong Huangli like hungry wolves. As long as they are able to capture Dong Huangli, they would definitely tear her apart. However, who was Dong Huangli? She was the first child of a supreme overlord. Chapter 398. Ho ho, ho, can't catch me, can't catch me. Dong Huangli made a funny face, then jumped away from Dong Huangli. A lump of golden flame appeared on Dong Huangli's finger, and without even thinking, Dong Huangli threw out the lump of golden flame. A small ball of golden flames drew an arc in the air. It was very beautiful, but also very terrifying. Puff. When the flames landed at the feet of the triplets, they instantly burst into flames. It was as if gasoline had found sparks and wanted to burn everything. The triplets were instantly buried in the sea of fire. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they turned into golden liquid that flowed on the ground. However, the fire could not be controlled at all. It rushed towards His Highness. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Once this sunfall heavenly fire comes into contact with an object, it would burn everything. Don't look at how Dong Huangli had only thrown out a small amount of sunfall heavenly fire. It was more than enough to burn the entire voidless realm. Dong Huangli was stupefied. It was clearly just a small fire. How did it become so big? He even burned Mama's palace. Dong Huangli, who didn't know what to do, immediately burst into tears, because her mommy will definitely scold her. Facing such a huge fire, no one was able to do anything. Dong Huangbaiji couldn't be bothered with the crown prince anymore. She hurriedly carried her daughter into her embrace and left, then ordered everyone to leave. Zhu Zhengqing took this opportunity to escape. Just you wait. Wait for me to summon 1,000,000 soldiers. Now you know what pain is. Right now, everyone in Voidless Realm was looking at the tallest mountain, and the tallest mountain had already turned into a huge fireball. As the Empress Palace, it was the most luxurious and symbolic place. Today, it was actually burned down by the Empress' daughter. Everyone was heartbroken, but there was nothing they could do. Dong Huangli was already tired of crying, and while lying on her mother's bosom, she fell asleep. Dong Huangbaiji wanted to scold her, but she didn't know how to do it. Her daughter had resolved the crisis, but she had accidentally burned down the entire palace. It's all Yihua's fault. Seems like right now, Yihua has to take the blame for everything. This is truly too miserable. In actuality, Yihua was powerless to do anything. The might of the deviant flames was unimaginable, especially the Sunfall heavenly flame, which couldn't be extinguished no matter what. Qinya let out a deep sigh. I have already told you. You can't teach a child to be too formidable. Yihua just won't listen. How long is this fire going to burn? Dong Huangbaiji mumbled. Suddenly, a very obvious small fireball fell from the fireball and landed on a mountain below. Qinya and Dong Huangbaiji's faces stiffened. Sure enough, the mountain peak was instantly set ablaze, and Dong Huangbaiji immediately dispersed the crowd. In the end, Voidless Realm had no choice but to gather the people from Voidless Realm and push the two mountains far away. Only then was Voidless Realm able to escape from this calamity. The main culprit, Dong Huangli, was currently pretending to be asleep, fearing that she would be scolded by her mother. Voidless Realm, which was missing two mountains, looked very awkward, especially with the disappearance of the King Peak, which was the topmost mountain. Voidless Realm looked just like a bald lady. Yihua expressed that there was nothing he could do about it. Although my main body is heaven-defying, there are still some things that cannot be changed. Fortunately, Voidless Realm was not a single entity. If Voidless Realm was a single entity, Voidless Realm would have definitely been burned to the ground. This was also the reason why Yihua often said that it was actually very easy to burn down the entire world. Now even little Ali could do it. Alright, I just want to see Voidless Realm get burned down. If that's the case, we will have no place to return to, and we can only return to Voidless Realm. However, after this incident, I reckon that Dong Huangli wouldn't use Sunfall Heavenly Fire anymore. It was a pity that Wu Man, the military advisor, was knocked unconscious after only appearing for a few times. When Zhu Zhengqing left, he didn't even care about Wu Man and ended up being burned to death. As for the triplets, they all died mysteriously. I reckon that they didn't even have the feeling of death. Seeing that the three of them were fine, Yihua, who was standing in the air, felt relieved. He didn't have any intention of meeting with them, and thus he left with Wei Chong and his sister-in-law. Because there are more important things that I have to do. It doesn't seem appropriate for this crown prince to leave just like that, right? Seems like I have to bring my subordinates out for a walk and not force them too much, especially Yizizi, who has a bitter expression on her face all day long. Returning back to Leisure Bar, Yihua sent his sister-in-law away and prepared to have a good talk with Yizizi. Yihua pushed open the door of the bar, and Yizizi's petite back could be seen sitting in front of the desk. Her two ponytails were swaying back and forth behind her head, and it was clear that she was trying to seduce people. What are you doing? Yihua walked over and asked faintly. Yizizi said, teacher's assignment. Yihua took a look at Yizizi and saw that she was copying a text, just that. The handwriting is not something that an ordinary person would be able to recognize. Pulling out a small stool, Yihua sat at the side and asked lightly, what's wrong? Are you unhappy? Yizizi pursed her lips and said with grievance, Zizi doesn't dare to be unhappy. Then I will register you for a cram school. Yizizi could be seen directly pouncing into Yihua's embrace and acting cute. Ugh, your honor. I feel like vomiting, it's so stifling. Yihua patted onto Yizizi's forehead. The reason why I came over this time is to help you reduce the pressure. Yizizi's beautiful eyes lit up, and she immediately sat properly like a good student and vowed solemnly, "Your Honor, as long as you help me reduce the pressure, I promise that I will study properly and improve every day." Rubbing onto Yi Zizi's head, Yi Hua said eerily, "You will enjoy this time of reducing the pressure." The corner of Yi Zizi's mouth arced upwards. Her pair of big scarlet eyes were flickering with bloodlust, and her bright red tongue was licking the corner of her mouth, seemingly unable to wait any longer. Zhu Zhengqing, who was forced to return to Heaven's Mansion, was currently in a violent rage. "Today, I lost 4 of my generals. The most important thing is that Wu Man died." Wu Ma family had been guarding the borders of Heaven's Mansion for generations, defending against the ferocious beasts of Heaven's Mansion in exchange for 1,000 years of peace. And this Wu Man was the youngest son that the general doted on. If I were to tell him about this unfortunate news, Father Emperor would definitely blame me. Furthermore, in order to appease Wu Ma family, the punishment will be very heavy. This is not a situation that Zhu Zhengqing wanted to see. Bang bang bang. Countless spirit porcelains were smashed into pieces by Zhu Zhengqing. This kind of low-level world actually has such a child. That's right. This child called Donghuang Baiji Mother. Could it be that this child awakened East Emperor's bloodline? If so, everything will make sense. This East Emperor's bloodline is indeed terrifying. No wonder Ho Xuelin wanted to take it for himself. That's right. Since no one knows about Wu Mayan's death, I might as well push the blame onto the person who destroyed Ho Wang Mansion. Your Highness the Crown Prince. A dignified-looking woman could be seen walking over and shouting out with a sweet voice. When Zhu Zhengqing, who was in a violent rage, saw this concubine, he immediately thought of those 2 women and grabbed onto the concubine's wrist. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, it hurts," Zhu Zhengqing shouted out towards the maids. "All of you scram out." After all of the maids left the room, Zhu Zhengqing directly pressed the concubine onto the table and vented out the resentment in his heart. Zhu Zhengqing even swore that sooner or later, he will definitely kill those 2 women. After venting out his resentment, Zhu Zhengqing felt much better and rewarded the concubine. Chapter 399. Zhu Zhengqing was puzzled. Now that Wu Man was gone, he had lost a powerful foil. "All right, allow me to undress." After changing into a new robe, Zhu Zhengqing walked into the hall uneasily and saw the person he didn't want to see the most. Wu Ma Chao, Che Hongliang and Celestial Master Ing Wei were there as well. They seemed to be discussing something. Wu Ma Chao wasn't as handsome as his youngest son Wu Man. His fierce face showed the traces of time. Even when meeting the emperor, he wore armor. If Wu Ma Chao knew that his youngest son had been killed by the crown prince, he would probably kill the crown prince. Why did General Wu Ma suddenly rush back? Zhu Qingxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked curiously. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, I received a secret report from the Celestial Master and immediately rushed back." Wu Ma Chao's voice was loud and clear. Zhu Qingxian was unhappy. The Celestial Master was making a big deal out of nothing. "Celestial Master, General Wu Ma is guarding the border. How can we let him come back so suddenly?" The Celestial Master was terrified. "Your Majesty, this is a special time. With General Wu Ma here, the royal hunt will be safer." Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and shouted, "Don't worry, Your Majesty. I will do my best to protect Your Majesty. Then I will have to trouble General Wu Ma." Zhu Chengxian was helpless. A trace of annoyance flashed between his brows. "Crown Prince, the royal hunt is in 3 days. Finish this quickly," Zhu Chengxian said to his son. This was also a chance for his son to perform for the royal family. Zhu Zhengqing cupped his hands and said, "Your son understands." Zhu Chengxian nodded and scanned the crowd. "I don't want to hear anyone else talk about this bloody light. Anyone who disobeys will be executed." The 4 knelt together. "Your Majesty is wise. You may all leave." The 4 bowed and left the hall. Zhu Zhengqing quickened his pace. He didn't want to talk to Wu Ma Chao in case the latter saw through him. However, this action made Wu Ma Chao feel like something was wrong. In the past, this crown prince was trying to curry favor with him, but now he was leaving so quickly. "Your Highness," Wu Ma Chao called with a smile. Zhu Zhengqing stopped in his tracks and cursed under his breath. However, he still turned around and smiled. General Wu Ma, why is my son not accompanying the crown prince? Wu Ma Chao asked curiously. Oh, I didn't see it today either. Zhu Zhengqing smiled. You won't be able to find this corpse in your entire life. Wu Ma Chao smiled. That's strange. He's not at home either. Maybe I'll go to a girl's house and stay the night. Zhu Zhengqing's words made Wu Ma Chao believe him. Being romantic was their motto. This general will not disturb the crown prince any further. I hope the crown prince will guide my son. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands in greeting. Zhu Zhengqing laughed heartily. Well said, well said. Seeing Wu Ma Chao leave, Zhu Zhengqing heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, today was a secret mission and no one knew. Your Highness the Crown Prince. Che Hongliang suddenly walked out from the side, a pair of small eyes revealing shrewdness. Zhu Zhengqing was startled, but he squeezed out a smile. Sir Che. Che Hongliang chuckled. Today, Your Highness the Crown Prince brought the general's son and a few subordinates out. I'm sure your luck with women is not shallow. Zhu Zhengqing really wanted to chop this bastard in front of him into pieces. He actually sent people to spy on me. Furthermore, he also found out about today's matter. What should I do? Seeing that the crown prince did not speak, Che Hongliang said indifferently. Just now Your Highness the Crown Prince and the general said that you don't know Wu Mayan's whereabouts. This is a bit. Sir Che must have remembered wrongly. Zhu Zhengqing gradually stopped smiling. At this moment he could not even smile anymore. Then, if the general knows that the crown prince lied, I'm afraid that the matter will be reported to His Majesty. Che Hongliang, just what are you trying to do? Zhu Zhengqing lowered his voice and shouted. Relying on the support of the Empress, the crown prince actually dared to speak rudely to me. Che Hongliang did not expect the crown prince to have such a big reaction. At the start, I was only probing, but from the looks of it now, something must have happened. Otherwise, the crown prince would not be this nervous. Could it be that Wu Man has already? Your Highness the Crown Prince is very busy. I'm just afraid that Your Highness the Crown Prince is too busy. Don't you just want a plane? I'll give you one and seal your mouth. So it's this matter. Sir Che, you can be at ease. After the imperial hunt is over, I will report this matter to my father. This was precisely what Che Hongliang wanted to hear. Thank you, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Take care, Sir Che. Looking at Che Hongliang leaving, Zhu Zhengqing wished that he could take out his sword and stab Che Hongliang in the back. To actually dare to trick even me. Just now, it would have been great if I had brought the unconscious Wu Man along with me. If not, why would I be threatened by Che Hongliang now? Right now, the most important matter is to properly handle the imperial hunt. After the imperial hunt is over, I will think of a way to get the Donghuang bloodline, Niwa bloodline, and those two women. This matter cannot be spoken out even if I am beaten to death. After all, this matter is more important than the throne. 3 days passed by very quickly. Because it was the imperial hunt, the people in the city were celebrating as if it was a festival. To them, the imperial hunt was a big day. The more the imperial hunt was, the more glorious the imperial family was, and the more peaceful the Heaven's Mansion was. Of course, the hunt was also a chance for the princes to perform. Although the crown prince had already been decided, it was still possible to remove him from his position. The princes all wanted to drag the crown prince down from his pedestal. There were more than 2,000 members of the imperial family in total, including the generals and guards. There were more than 10,000 people. Zhu Zhengqing was the person in charge of this hunt, and he was in charge of everything. Just as Zhu Zhengqing was busy, Wu Ma Chao walked over in his armor. He was in charge of safety this time. Your Highness, have you seen my son these past few days? Wu Ma Chao asked in a low voice. His eyes were filled with displeasure. Zhu Zhengqing felt Wu Ma Chao's questioning, and immediately greeted him with a smile. General Wu Ma, the Crown Prince has been busy making arrangements for the hunt these past few days. He has been so busy that he has not seen young Master, and that is strange. Once this hunt is over, I hope that Your Highness will give me an answer. This was Wu Ma Chao's final message. His son's sudden disappearance was definitely not normal. It must have something to do with the crown prince. Zhu Zhengqing hurriedly comforted him. Do not worry, General Wu Ma. Once the hunt is over, this crown prince will immediately go find young Masterin. Perhaps he is infatuated with someone's daughter. Then I hope that your highness will remember your words. Wu Ma Chao was not so easy to trick. He, the father, had returned, but his son had to come and see him. Which family's daughter could be kept? Seeing Wu Ma Chao leave, Zhu Zhengqing let out a sigh of relief. His heart was heavy. Chapter 400. Drums thundered through the air, carrying with them a sense of majesty and solemnity. It also symbolized that the royal family was out on patrol, and everyone had to kneel to welcome them. As the procession walked out of the palace, everyone on the road to the city gates knelt down to welcome them. This was the royal family of Heaven's sanctum. Everyone had to submit to them. After walking out of the southern city gates, the procession gradually rose into the sky and rushed towards the hunting grounds. The majestic procession walked in the sky. When they passed by the city, the people below looked up at the royal family, and then knelt down to offer their sincere blessings. The hunting was a traditional festival of the royal family. For safety and the dignity of the royal family, some spirit beasts were specially reared for the royal family to hunt. Or if someone injured the spirit beasts first, then the princes would hunt them. In short, the royal hunt was a deep set of traps. Changlin was the royal hunting grounds. Zhu Zhengqing had built a temporary courtyard, and opposite the courtyard was a forest. When the people of the royal family arrived, the forest was filled with the melodious chirping of birds. Thousands of birds flew into the sky. Your Majesty is blessed. Even these birds are cheering for your Majesty's arrival. Che Hongliang couldn't help but flatter. Che Mainyang was the current empress and Che Hongliang's older sister. In such an occasion, she would definitely stand by the emperor's side. Receiving the protection of your Majesty, even these birds are singing your praises. It's a good sign. Che Mainyang laughed softly. Behind her was a group of beautiful concubines, all of whom only wanted to receive the emperor's favor. And among these concubines, there were many virgins that even the emperor had forgotten to touch. Hearing these compliments, Zhu Chengxian revealed a faint smile. With this emperor here, the country will naturally prosper and the people will be at peace. Following Zhu Qingshuan's words, everyone knelt down and shouted, God bless your Majesty, God bless Heaven's sanctum. Zhu Chengxian smiled and waved his hand. The people began to set up camp, while the people of the royal family and the others entered the courtyard to rest. Walking into the courtyard, Zhu Qingxian smiled. Crown Prince, you did well. Thank you for the praise, father. In the past, they had to set up tents for the hunt, but this time, Zhu Zhengqing had built a temporary courtyard in 3 days. Hearing the emperor praise the crown prince, Che Mainyang and Che Hongliang were very unhappy. Your Majesty, if you let Yin'er do it, I believe she will do it well, Che Mainyang said in a low voice. Zhu Yin bowed and stood to the side. In a low voice he said, Your Highness, the crown prince's intelligence surpasses others. Your son is inferior. Zhu Qingxian didn't say anything, but Che Mainyang glared at her son. Zhu Yin actually didn't like it. Father Emperor valued Zhu Zhenqing very much now. Now that Zhu Yin was comparing himself to him, wouldn't that make Father Emperor feel disgusted? This Zhu Yin was a smart person and had some ability. Che Hongliang also valued him a lot, but his sister was too impatient, causing Zhu Yin's image to be bad in front of His Majesty. Royal brother, you must be joking. If you were to handle this matter, you would definitely surpass me. Crown Prince, you are too kind. The two of them complimented each other, and were equally matched. As for the princes who were following behind, they watched the development of the situation. Right now, the crown prince obviously had the upper hand, but Zhu Yin had the support of the empress and Che Hongliang. His strength could not be underestimated. In addition, Marquis Wang Ye's entire family was suddenly wiped out. The situation suddenly became complicated and confusing. As the emperor, Zhu Qingxian came here to relax and watch the performance of the princes. Of course, he also had to pamper the imperial concubines. After all, this was also a chance for them. Although they couldn't enjoy the rain and dew, at least they could break as many as they could. At least they wouldn't die with their bodies intact. The hunt officially begins. Princes, go and prepare. Following Emperor Zhu Qingshuan's order, hundreds of princes began to prepare to enter the field. As for the wives of these princes, they also began to worry. Although the spirit beasts in Changlin were of low level, accidents might happen. One had to know. Every time there was a hunt, someone would die. Perhaps these women didn't know that they weren't killed by the spirit beasts, but by their half-brothers. The royal family was just that cruel. As the emperor, he saw all of this but didn't stop it. If the world wasn't won through fighting, would it still be called the world? Princes died one after another, and young princes were born continuously. The gods who had a long life didn't worry about the future generations. Zhu Zhengqing was the crown prince and the leader of the entire faction. Although he had lost a powerful helper like Wu Man, these younger brothers still had a lot of power. It seemed like he had to think about it carefully. Crown Prince, why don't we have a competition? Zhu Yun, who was riding on by Rong, said to Zhu Zhengqing with a smile. Dozens of princes followed behind him. Zhu Zhengqing also had many princes. Royal brother, you said the same thing last year, right? Zhu Zhengqing said indifferently. He didn't even look at Zhu Yun, and his words were full of sarcasm. Crown Prince, you are right. However, I have practiced for a year, and I hope to catch up to you. Zhu Zhengqing chuckled and said, Royal brother, even if you practice for another 100 years, you still won't be able to catch up to me. Jia. After saying this, Zhu Zhengqing led the princes of one faction into Changlin. Dust instantly flew up. Zhu Yun's eyes gleamed coldly as he shouted, Jia. After the princes of the two factions left, there were dozens of princes left. They didn't want to fight and wanted to be free. Therefore, they entered Changlin unhurriedly and hunted some small animals in the periphery before going back to report. After Zhu Zhengqing rushed into Changlin, he didn't go inside. Instead, he circled around the periphery before he stopped. Crown Prince, I'm afraid that Zhu Yin is going to kill you. This person was called Zhu Di. Apart from Wu Man, he was the only person that Zhu Zhengqing trusted. Zhu Zhengqing sneered. After so many years of killing, has he ever succeeded? Your Highness, you should be careful. Zhu Di warned. It was better to be safe than sorry. Underestimating the enemy was a taboo in the military. However, Zhu Zhengqing seemed to have forgotten the lesson from 3 days ago. Brothers, let's warm up in the outer perimeter first. Then, follow me in to kill the strongest spirit beasts. Let the Emperor Father witness our teamwork. Zhu Zhengqing exuded the might of the Crown Prince and shouted at the people behind him to boost their morale. Yes, Your Highness. On the other side, Zhu Yun led his people to circle around the periphery before he stopped. This time, they must kill the Crown Prince. Of course, they couldn't kill him openly. They had to pretend that they were killed by the spiritual beasts. Royal brother, we must win this time. A handsome man rode out on a spiritual horse. His name was Zhu Zhu, and he was Zhu Yun's right-hand man. Zhu Yun said in a deep voice, It's either we succeed or we die. It's time to change the Crown Prince. Royal brother, you're right. Zhu Zhengqing is a playboy. I don't know what father sees in him. Even if he sees something, he will unfortunately die under the spiritual beast's cudgels today. Zhu Yun revealed a murderous look as if he had killed his father. After saying that, Zhu Yun led his people into the depths of Changlin. It seemed like he wanted to set up an ambush first. There were only some ordinary spirit beasts in the periphery. They were like rabbits or deer, and they weren't aggressive at all. However, as they went deeper, the spiritual beasts became more lethal. However, the strongest spiritual beasts here were only high-level spiritual beasts. Just like ordinary people and tigers and lions, there wouldn't be any dinosaur-level spiritual beasts. Therefore, the spiritual beasts weren't much of a threat to the princes. After all, the weapons in their hands were ancient godly items. As for ancient godly items, they were very rare. Chapter 401. As Zhu Yun ventured deeper into the forest, the air was filled with a sense of fear. This caused everyone to feel strange. Brother, why do I feel that something is wrong? Zhu frowned and looked around. Why didn't he feel this way in the past? It was as if a strange aura was pressing down on his back, making it hard for him to breathe. Zhu also noticed that something was amiss and stopped his horse. His instincts told him that he couldn't go any deeper. Could there be a high-level ancient beast? Zhu muttered. That's possible. Dong. 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 Suddenly, a series of stomping sounds rang out, causing the ground to tremble. The prince's horses were startled, but they quickly calmed down. After all, their mounts were not ordinary war horses. The tremors on the ground were getting stronger and stronger, indicating that they were getting closer. Zhu felt his entire body trembling. Roar. An angry roar broke the tranquility of the forest. Under the roar, the spiritual energy fluctuations spread out in all directions. Everyone immediately put up their defenses. Zhu was in disbelief and shouted, "This is a high-level ancient beast, Black Green Eye." The princes were shocked. They didn't even see any high-level spirit beasts, but a high-level ancient beast had suddenly appeared. This was the royal hunting ground. How could there be such an ancient beast? Retreat! Retreat! Zhu hurriedly ordered and turned to run. Black Green Eye was not an ordinary high-level ancient beast, because its size was not ordinary. Boom! Just as the princes were about to turn and run, a gigantic ancient beast charged at them. It had a pair of green eyes for limbs, and silvery white for all over its body. It was several hundred meters tall, and every time it ran, the ground would tremble. However, upon closer inspection, the green eyes and black eyes looked a bit like a gorilla. Even the way it ran was a bit similar. However, its face was filled with fear. Its green eyes seemed to have seen something even more terrifying. It ran outside without a care for its life. The war horses of the princes were relatively fast, but compared to a high-level ancient beast, they were still lacking. Scatter and run! Zhu shouted. Black Green Eye looked at the princes that were like ants, and it wanted to stomp them to death. Ah. A few princes instantly died under Black Green Eye's huge foot, and they were actually stomped into meat paste. Stop! Zhu suddenly shouted. Everyone stopped what they were doing and dodged the attack very well. After that, Black Eye ran away just like that. What was going on? Wasn't it chasing after him? Why did he run away? Imperial brother, Black Eye seems to be being chased by something. Zhu gasped for breath. The situation just now was truly terrifying. If the black-eyed beast turned around and attacked, the consequences would be unthinkable. In actuality, this black-eyed beast was much more powerful than Ing Family's and Voidless Realm's divine beasts, and they weren't on the same level at all. However, in Voidless Realm, this black-eyed beast was merely a high-rank ancient beast. On the other hand, Ing Family and Voidless Realm's godly beasts could only be considered as high-level spiritual beasts at most. Just as Zhu was about to say something, the ground suddenly began to squirm. Everyone looked at their feet. There was something moving quickly below them. Everyone had a bad feeling as they looked at Black-Eyed, who was running for his life in the distance. Boom! The princes stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. A gigantic corpse koan drilled out from the ground and opened its bloody mouth. Its green eyes were filled with panic. In terms of size, the two weren't on the same level at all. The corpse koan was several thousand meters long, and when it opened its bloody mouth, it was large enough to swallow the black-eyed beast whole. Fear appeared on Black-Eye's face. Although it had jumped high into the air, it wasn't flying, and it was still going to fall. Lowering its head and looking at the huge mouth that was filled with a fishy smell, Black-Eyed fell into despair. The corpse koan could be seen fiercely closing its mouth and letting out a loud sound. The lower half of Black-Eye's body was gone, and only its chest and head were left. The two enormous beasts landed from the sky, raising a cloud of dust. All the princes were dumbstruck. However, the matter wasn't over yet. Right now, Black-Eyed wasn't completely dead yet. Its strong desire to live was telling it that it still had a chance to live. The corpse koan was like a python as it revolved around Black-Eyed, seemingly playing with this weak life. Imperial brother, why would this ferocious beast appear in Changlin? Zhu's tone was filled with boundless fear. It is impossible for such a ferocious beast to appear in Changlin. Zhu Yun's chest moved up and down, seeming to be very excited. However, within this excitement, there was also deep fear. Blood glow. Blood glow. Blood glow. All the princes thought back to what happened a few days ago. Although the news of what happened was sealed off, all of them still knew about it. Now that the corpse Kuan suddenly appeared in Changlin, does this mean that the blood glow has been verified? The corpse Kuan seemed to have finished playing with the corpse Kuan and swallowed the remaining black-eyed. Right now, all the princes didn't dare to make any movements, fearing that this damnable corpse Kuan would attack them. If that happened, they would be dead for sure. On the other side, Zhu Jingqing and his men had hunted quite a lot of low-grade spiritual beasts, and their results were pretty good. Crown Prince, do you think that this Zhu Yun will ambush us like how he did in the past? Zhu Di asked with a smile on his face while stepping on the three-horned deer's corpse. Zhu Jingqing sneered. Other than ambush, could it be that he still has other tricks up his sleeves? Perhaps, he might even call an accomplice? Zhu Di said jokingly. Accomplice? This is a battle between princes. If he really calls an accomplice and this matter is reported to father, the one who will be out of luck will still be him. Although the emperor allowed the princes to fight during the hunt, it was ultimately a battle within the family, and if outsiders were to get involved, it would be a huge crime. Your Highness is right, but we must also be careful, Zhu Di warned. This was the same as Wu Ma, and they were both doing it for the sake of the crown prince. However, when these words fell into Zhu Jingqing's ears, it was different, as if he was looking down on him. What is there to be afraid of, a small Zhu Yun? It's almost time to go in. This crown prince will take this Zhu Yun's head today. Zhu Jingqing was incomparably arrogant. He was truly someone who was not afraid of being beaten. Roar. Suddenly, a roar came from the depths of the forest. Everyone couldn't help but stop in their tracks, and their position started to shake slightly. Your Highness, this is an ancient beast. Zhu Di guessed because it was too far away, he could only make a guess. Zhu Jingqing waited for a long time, and nothing happened. As if the roar was just an illusion, he chuckled. Let's go. At this time, Zhu Yun was sweating profusely. The corpse Kuan was actually not moving. Furthermore, the corpse Kuan was fixedly staring at Zhu Yun's side, as if it was issuing a warning. Looking at the festering flesh and the stench coming from the corpse Kuan, the princes' faces flushed red, and they felt like vomiting, but they didn't dare to vomit. Suddenly, a cheerful melody rang out from the depths of the forest. Happy goat, beautiful goat, lazy goat, boiling goat. At this kind of gloomy moment, there was actually someone singing, and everyone couldn't help but look over. Chapter 402. Don't look at me as a sheep, I am actually a wolf. The princes looked at the little girl stupidly. They weren't shocked by the little girl, but because the little girl was riding on the sheep and swaggered past the corpse Kuan. How is this possible? This is a ferocious corpse Kuan, a powerful and ferocious beast that kills people like killing chickens. You, such a cute little girl, actually walked past him and sat on the back of a weak spirit goat. Isn't this the same as delivering delicious food? Yi Zizi stretched out her little hand and yawned. I love his honor so much, he actually let me relieve pressure like this. Sob, sob. Sob, I'm so happy. These lowly humans revealed that terrified expression again. It was so comfortable to watch. When Yi Zizi stopped in front of the corpse Kuan, everyone took in a mouthful of cold air. If they still don't know what is going on, then they aren't fit to be princes. This little girl is the mastermind behind the scenes, and this corpse Kuan is listening to her. My God, how is this possible? Why would a powerful corpse Kuan listen to a little girl? Yi Zizi jumped down from the sheep's back, then looked at the well-dressed princes in front of her and said, Little brothers, how do you want to die? Zhu Yun looked at the cute little lowly and the huge corpse Kuan in front of him, and his mind actually went blank. Zhu Zhu, who was at the side, was also stupefied. This is simply unbelievable. However, one of the princes came back to his senses rather quickly. He could no longer hold back the fear in his heart, and he immediately rode on the spiritual horse and fled. Yi Zizi let out a light sigh. as if she was feeling very regretful. Then, a strand of hair that was like a sharp blade pierced through the prince's head, and the prince hung high up in the air. It has been a long time since I tasted blood essence. Yi Zizi greedily sucked in the blood essence, and a blurry expression appeared on her face. However, the other princes were no longer calm. Looking at their brother who was hung up in the air, their limbs twitched, their eyes rolled up, their skin became whiter and whiter, and in the blink of an eye, they became just skin and bones. Slurp, Yi Zizi couldn't help but let out a sound. Don't let them get away, Yi Zizi said faintly. The corpse koan behind her seemed to have woken up, and it emitted a terrifying aura. Boom, boom. In the other two directions, two more corpse koan drilled out from the ground, and those huge heads stared at the princes. Surrounded by three corpse kuns, the princes were scared witless. They were smart enough to know that they were done for today. I have no enmity with you. Why do you want to kill us? Zhu Yin couldn't help but ask. Even if he was going to die, he had to understand. Yi Zizi slowly walked over and said with a sweet smile. Who said that one must have a grudge to kill? You. Little big brother, you don't have to be too sad. It's hard for everyone to avoid death. Believe me, your death is heavier than a goose feather. Wrong. Heavier than Mount Tai, lighter than Mount Tai? Yi Zizi rubbed her head with both of her hands. I wrote it down from memory last night. How could I have forgotten about it? Zhu Zhu summoned his courage and roared. We're princes of heaven's sanctum. You won't have it easy either. I know that you are princes, and there is also a crown prince, Yi Zizi said with a mischievous smile. She seemed like a sinister little loli. Zhu Yin said in a deep voice. You're talking about Zhu Jingqing? Are you here for Zhu Jingqing? You can say that I am. This idiot provoked someone that he shouldn't have provoked. Zhu Jingqing is not here, he is in another direction. You can just go and find him. Zhu Yin hurriedly reported the location. Yi Zizi laughed. I know, I will go after I kill you all. It seems like it's useless to say so much. Zhu Yin was confused and questioned. Why do you want to kill us? Because of Zhu Jingqing. Yi Zizi had a look of, you are an idiot. Is there even a need to ask on her face? Then why don't you go and find Zhu Jingqing? Because you all aren't dead yet. Yi Zizi stood on her feet and stroked the spirit goat beside her. And that spirit goat closed its eyes comfortably. Zhu Yin remained silent for a while, then asked one last question. I want to know, will Zhu Jingqing die too? He won't die. Pfff. Zhu Yin spat out a mouthful of blood from anger. It was obviously Zhu Jingqing who caused all of this. Why did he not die in the end? And yet I have to die for him. In this life, I am just a foil. Even if I die, I will still be like this. Zhu Yin is not willing to accept this. Wow, you are so angry to the point of vomiting blood. Just how big of a grudge do you all have against each other? Yi Zizi cried out in surprise. It was very rare for someone to vomit blood from anger. Zhu Yin seemed to have collapsed in an instant, then said, a very big grudge. It's a pity that I have a mission to complete. I am unable to help you take revenge. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth. His honor's order was to leave Zhu Jingqing alive, and the other princes will do as they see fit. The meaning of do as they see fit was very clear. That is death. There was no other possibility. However, when these words fell into the ears of the princes, it was as if a bolt from the blue had struck them, causing their ears to ring. This little girl actually has a mission to complete. Then who is the person who gave her the mission? Everyone's scalp went numb, and they couldn't help but think of the bloody glow. The legend is real. When the bloody glow appears, the country will face disaster. However, I can let you all die together. At least you all will be able to see each other's miserable state. What do you think? Yi Zizi suggested. Zhu Yin agreed to Yi Zizi's suggestion without even thinking. If I am really going to die, I want to see them suffer the same fate as me. On the other side, Zhu Jingqing had already charged into the depths of Changlin. Just that, along the way, they did not encounter any spiritual beasts. Zhu Di said gravely, Your Highness the Crown Prince, I have a bad feeling about this. Zhu Di, why are you acting the same as Wu Man? Zhu Jingqing said gravely. This Zhu Jingqing doesn't learn his lesson at all. Back then, when he was at Ji family Wu Ma, and had a bad premonition. If he had gone back to Ji family back then, everything would have been fine. Right now, Zhu Di also had a bad premonition. This Zhu Zhengqing is still the same, he doesn't listen to advice. However, this time, even if he listens to advice, he won't be able to run away. Zhu Di didn't dare to say anything, fearing that he would anger the crown prince. After circling around the depths of Chonglin, Zhu Zhengqing didn't see any spiritual beasts, and this caused Zhu Zhengqing to be puzzled. Your Highness the Crown Prince, Zhu Yun and the others have been discovered ahead of us. A prince rushed over and reported. Zhu Zhengqing snorted coldly. From the looks of it, those spiritual beasts were scared away by my prestige. If that's the case, we can only kill them. Ja. With Zhu Zhengqing at the lead, the group of princes rushed toward Zhu Yun. When Zhu Zhengqing saw Zhu Yun and the others standing together, Zhu Zhengqing pulled the horse under him and said with a smile, Imperial brother, this year, we are not going for a sneak attack, but an open attack. Zhu Zhengqing. Just what did you do? Zhu Yun shouted coldly. This fellow must have done something outrageous, otherwise, how could he have offended such a ferocious person? Impudent, you actually dare to speak of the crown prince's name. Zhu Di shouted angrily. Chapter 403. It was normal for princes to dislike each other, but it was rare for them to curse like this. Even if they wanted to curse, they would curse behind someone's back. However, it was rare to curse in front of someone's face, not to mention that the person being cursed was the crown prince. Zhu Zhu's curse made the princes on Zhu Zhengqing's side very surprised, but Zhu Yun's side was much more normal. Zhu Zhu, do you know the crime of cursing this crown prince? If you have the guts, try cursing again. Zhu Zhengqing's face didn't look good after all. It was in front of so many people. Crime. Isn't it just losing your head? This daddy is cursing you, Zhu Zhengqing, you bastard. Damn Zhu Zhengqing. Even if this daddy becomes a ghost, I will kill you. Zhu Zhengqing, you bastard, this daddy will kill your whole family. All kinds of curses started to attack Zhu Zhengqing, which made him feel that something was wrong, but he didn't care. Instead, he suspected that this was a trap. Zhu Yun, I didn't expect that this year, there will be no sneak attacks or open attacks, but a war of words. Zhu Zhengqing couldn't help but mock them. He planned to kill a few to show his strength, then beat up the rest to let them know that this crown prince wasn't someone to be trifled with. Zhu Yun coldly laughed. Zhu Zhengqing, what kind of stupid thing did you do? Don't you have any idea? Do you know how many people you will kill? Zhu Zhengqing's heart sank. He couldn't help but think about what happened a few days ago. Could it be that other than Che Hongliang, Zhu Yun also knew? It must be Che Hongliang who told him. Damn, they are all despicable people. It seems like this person can't be left alive today. Hearing Zhu Yun's words, coupled with the attitude of the princes, Zhu Di was puzzled, feeling that something was wrong. The princes behind were also discussing in low voices. After all, the princes weren't fools. Could it be that something really happened? What did this crown prince do that angered even the gods? Crown prince, what do you think? Zhu Di asked, seemingly wanting to hear the crown prince's explanation. This made Zhu Zhengqing very unhappy. Zhu Di, what kind of attitude is this? Are you questioning this crown prince? I don't dare, Judith hurriedly said. However, she was a little unhappy in her heart. Yelling at her in front of so many princes was not giving her any face at all. Zhu Yun suddenly laughed, then became more and more crazy, making everyone think that Zhu Yun was stupid. Ha ha ha. You're all going to die, ha ha. We are all going to die, ha 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 ha. Following this crazy laughter, Zhu Yun's faction couldn't help but laugh, but there were also people who cried. Zhu Zhengqing's people were all very surprised. It was fine if one of them was crazy, but all of them had gone crazy. Could it be that they had been bewitched? Moreover, for them to say such words, it was very puzzling. Zhu Zhengqing looked on coldly, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. This laughter seemed to be mocking him. Beat him up. If he dies, it's on me. Zhu Zhengqing, who had flown into a rage out of humiliation, seemed to have gone mad as well. The princes behind him were also very obedient. They immediately rode their horses over, and started a one-sided beating. At the end of the day, they didn't really dare to kill him. In the past, there were times when they failed, but those were normal fights between the two sides. But this time, Zhu Yun and the others from the prince's faction didn't fight back at all. They were still laughing and crying when they were beaten. This made the princes who were fighting stop. Something was not right. You guys are really noisy. The sudden voice caused all the princes to be stunned for a moment. They immediately looked over. Their eyes were filled with doubt and greed. Of course, Zhu Yun's side was filled with the fear of impending death. Although Zhu Zhengqing didn't like this kind of thing, when he saw such a cute little girl, he couldn't help but have some thoughts. Yi Zizi sat on the spirit goat's back, sizing up the group of princes. Sucking them should be very enjoyable. Little sister, where did you come from? Are you lost? Zhu Zhengqing jumped down from his horse, revealing a warm smile. Yi Zizi also revealed a sweet smile. Little brother, are you Zhu Zhengqing? Zhu Zhengqing paused, then immediately smiled. That's right, I am Zhu Zhengqing, the current crown prince. That's good. Yi Zizi's sweet smile instantly turned dark, causing everyone to feel that something was wrong. Bang, bang, bang. 3 loud sounds shook the sky, and 3 corpse kuan drilled out from the ground. Those thick, long, and huge bodies surrounded everyone. Their huge heads stared at everyone from 3 directions, and the mucus dripping from the corners of their mouths corroded the grass. This is a vicious beast. It's a corpse kuan. Heavens! How could a corpse kuan appear in Changlin? This is impossible. The princes on Zhu Zhengqing's side could not remain calm, and pulled out their swords, looking at the 3 huge corpse kuan in fear. All dead, ha 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 ha. Zhu Yun laughed maniacally. Yi Zizi pouted, so noisy. A strand of hair with a sharp wind drilled into the back of Zhu Yun's head, and the laughter immediately stopped. His whole body began to twitch, and in the blink of an eye, he was reduced to skin and bones. This sudden change caused all the princes to be dumbfounded. Who was this little girl? Who are you? Zhu Zhengqing had no other thoughts and his face immediately changed. With 3 corpse kuan looking down on him, if he could still remain calm, then he was not an ordinary person. Yi Zizi jumped down from the spirit goat and took small steps. Zhu Zhengqing, don't you know who I am? Seeing that Yi Zizi was approaching him step by step, Zhu Zhengqing unconsciously retreated, and soon after, his butt fell onto the ground. This made him think back to 3 days ago. How could there be such a person in that kind of low-level world, with such strength, and to even be able to control 3 corpse kuan? Yi Zizi swept her gaze across everyone, then said with a smile, I am not only targeting Zhu Zhengqing, I am also targeting everyone here. Because of him, all of you are going to die. Everyone finally understood why Zhu Yun went crazy. Seems like he already knew that he was going to die. Crown Prince, aren't you going to give us an explanation? Zhu Di was still rather calm, and he shouted out towards Zhu Zhengqing. No, I don't know anything. Zhu Zhengqing didn't even think too much and immediately jumped onto his unicorn, then ran away madly, and even ran past the corpse kuan. Everyone thought that Zhu Zhengqing was going to die, and he was going to die very miserably. But nothing happened. Those corpse kuan didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun, and that little girl also didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun. Zhu Zhengqing ran away just like that. When some princes saw that even the crown prince ran away and didn't get injured, they began to imitate Zhu Yun and immediately got onto their unicorn and ran away. Yi Zizi grinned, and several strands of hair flew into the sky. Those princes who were riding on the unicorn were instantly pierced through the back of their heads, and all of them hung in the sky. I said, all of you are going to die. With a cruel smile on her face, Yi Zizi began sucking the blood essence of the gods. Chapter 404. I like it. Yi Zizi said softly. Her twin ponytails immediately flew up, and countless strands of hair silently pierced through the back of everyone's head. Only Zhu Di didn't. Her black hair gradually turned blood red, and a layer of crimson appeared on Yi Zizi's face. She even closed her eyes in intoxication. Zhu Di looked at the scene in front of her, and felt that her heart was about to stop. The hand that was holding onto the sword trembled intensely. Why am I not dead? Why is she keeping me alive? In the blink of an eye, other than Zhu Di, all of the princes turned into skin and bones, just like a layer of paper stacked together. I haven't felt so good for a long time. Too amazing. You're amazing. Yi Zizi was so excited that even her sweet voice changed, becoming deep and ghostly. Because she was too excited, that cute face looked especially sinister. After a long time, Yi Zizi calmed down and returned to normal. I am not like that usually. Zhu Di. You don't need to explain, you are just like that. That was your true appearance just now. You devil. Licking the corner of her lips, Yi Zizi let out a sweet voice. You can go. Zhu Di was confused. Why did she let me go? I heard that devils like to see their enemies running away and enjoy that instant of pleasure before killing them to satisfy their perverted psychological needs. Could it be that this little girl is the same? If you don't go, I will also suck you. Yi Zizi snorted lightly. Zhu Di didn't dare to think too much. Running away was better than being sucked. At least there was a trace of hope. Just like that, Yi Zizi looked at Zhu Di running away and didn't chase after her. Zhu Di, who was running away, felt very heavy in her heart. If her body turned cold and her head was removed, she would definitely not be surprised. However, after running for a period of time, nothing actually happened. Seems like the other party really let me go. I immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. Yi Zizi took in a deep breath and yawned. She jumped onto the spirit goat and started to head towards the direction where the two ran away, because there was still something that she hadn't announced yet. As for why she let Zhu Di go, this was also Yi Zizi's sudden change of mind. Although she let Zhu Zhenqing go, Yi Zizi felt that she couldn't let him have it too easy. If she let another person go and told the truth about the situation here, that crown prince would probably panic. If Yi Hua knew that Yi Zizi had such a mind, he would definitely be very gratified. Yi Zizi was no longer that little girl who only knew how to suck up humans. Right now, she had also become courageous and resourceful, and was able to destroy the enemy from within. The imperial guards were stationed outside the temporary courtyard. As the commander, Wu Ma Chao was patrolling to see if there were any signs of enemies. His bright eyes were looking at Chong Lin, who was not far away. Suddenly, Wu Ma Chao's gaze focused. A horse ran out of the forest. Open the door. Hurry up and open the door. Zhu Zhenqing, who was on the horse, shouted in a panic. Wu Ma Chao shouted, open the door. Zhu Zhenqing, who was running at top speed, suddenly felt weak and fell off his horse. When the soldiers saw the crown prince fall off his horse, they rushed over. Wu Ma Chao walked over with a puzzled expression. Your Highness. Water. 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 Zhu Zhenqing's face was slack and his eyes were filled with deep fear. A soldier took the water bottle, and Zhu Zhenqing took it and drank it. After drinking the water, he calmed down a little. Wu Ma Chao asked in a deep voice, Your Highness, where are the other princes? Dead. They're all dead. Zhu Zhenqing murmured. He looked like he was quite frightened. Hearing Zhu Zhenqing's answer, Wu Ma Chao's expression tightened. He asked, Your Highness, this matter cannot be joked about. What happened? Monster. They're all monsters. They're all dead. Zhu Zhenqing yelled at Wu Ma Chao. Wu Ma Chao's expression darkened. He immediately shouted, Pass down my order. All troops be on guard. Report. Prince Zhu Di has returned. A soldier quickly came over to report. Not long after, Zhu Di rode his horse back with a gloomy expression. He jumped off his horse and looked at the exhausted Zhu Zhenqing. Wu Ma Chao frowned. The crown prince had said that everyone was dead. How could there still be someone alive? He walked forward and asked, Prince Zhu Di, what happened? Zhu Di, with an obscure expression, walked past Wu Ma Chao towards Zhu Zhenqing. He lowered his head to look at the person who should have died and raised his fist. Bang! This fist ruthlessly landed on Zhu Zhenqing's face. Wu Ma Chao was stunned. Zhu Di was Zhu Zhenqing's trusted aide. He was like his own son. What was happening today? Wu Ma Chao didn't expect things to turn out like this. He immediately pulled back the rampaging Zhu Di. Prince, You'll get into trouble like this. Beating up the crown prince was a serious crime. Moreover, there were so many people watching. Don't pull me back. I'm going to kill this animal today. Zhu Di felt a wave of lingering fear when he thought about what had just happened. Although he had helped the crown prince, that was only a power struggle. However, this was related to the safety of the empire, and he had crossed the line. That little girl had killed all the princes. He wouldn't let her off so easily. Following Zhu Di's curses, all the soldiers were shocked. This Prince Zhu Di dared to insult the crown prince. Did he not want to live anymore? Zhu Zhengqing, who had been punched, seemed to wake up. He stood up and gave the prince a kick. Mother **Ker, I'll kill you. Zhu Zhengqing coldly shouted. Wu Ma Chao immediately gave the order to separate the two and bring them to see the emperor. Right now Zhu Qingxian was currently pampering an imperial concubine. Right when he was about to do it, a voice sounded out from outside the door. Your Majesty, the crown prince and the princes have started fighting. Zhu Qingxian was originally very excited, but when he heard what the emperor said, he immediately lost all interest. Zhu Qingxian stood up, and that imperial concubine's face was filled with hidden bitterness. Just a little bit more, after arriving at the front hall, Zhu Qingxian looked at his two sons and asked gravely, What happened to the two of you? You even caused a ruckus here. Father Emperor. Zhu Zhengqing caused a huge ruckus. Zhu Di knelt onto the ground. Before Zhu Zhengqing could say anything, a soldier hurriedly rushed in. Fear could be seen on the soldier's face as he said, Your Majesty. A little girl appeared in Changlin. Hearing the word little girl, Zhu Zhengqing and Zhu Di's expression immediately changed. What happened to her? Zhu Qingxian asked gravely. She kidnapped all the princes. What? Zhu Qingxian suddenly stood up and shouted out. The might of an emperor immediately spread out. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Let me go and take a look. I will go with you. The two of you kneel here. After finished speaking, the emperor didn't even look at his two sons and walked out of the front hall with Wu Ma Chao. Chapter 405. Behind Yi Zizi, the three corpse Kuns stood upright. Their enormous bodies emitted a tyrannical aura that soared to the heavens. Although the soldiers stationed outside the courtyard stood firm, their bodies were trembling. They had never seen such a scene before. After all, they were only the guards of the imperial palace. They were only responsible for the safety of the imperial palace, and there had been no casualties in the imperial palace for the past 1,000 years. Some of the family members of the princes in the courtyard seemed to have received some news. Then, seeing the emperor hurriedly walk out, they all followed him out to observe the situation. When Zhu Qingxian and Wu Ma Chao stood on the temporary stone wall, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of princes were suspended in midair, their faces filled with terror and terror. Zhu Qingxian gripped the wall tightly with both hands, his eyes filled with anger. Those were his sons. That's a corpse Kuan, a vicious beast from outside the border. Not a single one has appeared in 1,000 years, but now 3 have appeared. How is this possible? Wu Ma Chao muttered with fear in his eyes. Having guarded the border for many years, he understood this kind of vicious beast the best. It was incomparably brutal. At that time he was still a young man. He had followed his father and encountered the corpse Kuan once. That battle had resulted in countless casualties before the corpse Kuan was repelled. However, his father was heavily injured and passed away in the last few years. It could be seen how powerful this vicious beast was. Zhu Qingxian calmed down and shouted in a deep voice. Who are you? Why are you capturing this emperor's sons? Hurry up and let them go. No. Yi Zizi mumbled as she sucked on her lollipop. Why did this sentence sound so helpless and infuriating? Zhu Qingxian was infuriated. His words were like a sharp blade stabbing into his chest. Go save this emperor's son. Where is the heavenly master? Where is my heavenly master? Your Majesty, the celestial master is ill and did not come, Wu Ma Chao said in a deep voice. Ingwei did not come. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with the emperor. Your Majesty, calm down. This is a corpse koan, you can't act rashly. Otherwise, the consequences will be unthinkable. Wu Ma Chao tried his best to persuade them. This small number of people wouldn't even be enough to fill the gaps between the corpse koan's teeth. This emperor's child. The princes struggled helplessly in midair. They looked at their father on the stone wall and stretched out their hands. This was a son's plea to his father for help. Father, please save your son. Imperial father, I don't want to die. I didn't participate in the power struggle. I don't want to die. The princes' wives were also standing on the stone walls. When they saw their husbands, they couldn't help but cover their faces in disbelief. Some even cried loudly, and some even knelt behind Emperor Zhu Qingxian, begging him to save their husbands. They were all innocent. Hey, are you the emperor? Yi Zizi shouted at Zhu Qingxian. Zhu Qingxuan's breathing was rapid, but he had calmed down a little. I am. Yi Zizi licked her lollipop. I finally found you. The reason why I came here today is to pass on His Honor's decree. Your Honor. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How did they provoke a supreme being? Is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? Zhu Qingxuan's anger subsided a lot as he asked. Just ask the crown prince and you'll know. Yi Zizi slowly floated in the air and flew towards Zhu Qingxian. The princes in the air also hovered over. What are you trying to do? Wu Ma Chao shouted in front of Zhu Qingxian. Yi Zizi retracted her smile and said coldly. According to His Honor's decree, you have 3 days to prepare. 3 days later, His Honor will come here and bathe the imperial city in blood. As soon as she finished speaking, hundreds of princes violently twitched and instantly turned into skin and bones. All the generals were stunned. They couldn't even muster the will to resist. This was not a fight on the same level. Zhu Qingxuan's eyes were bloodshot as he watched his son die in front of him. He clenched his fists tightly, and the princes' wives all cried until they fainted. Yi Zizi sucked on her lollipop again. 3 days. Hurry up and bring out your strongest abilities. Don't disappoint His Honor. Goodbye. After she finished speaking, she revealed a cute smile and disappeared into the air. The 3 corpse koan drilled into the ground and disappeared without a trace. However, they were still hidden dangers. Zhu Qingxian looked at the skin and bones on the ground. His head was dizzy, and his body fell backwards. Your Majesty. Wu Ma Chao hurriedly supported him. Zhu Qingxian grabbed Wu Ma Chao's arm. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was distorted. Go back. I need to properly interrogate that unfilial son. On top of the stone wall, everyone was crying. The soldiers' bodies were stiff, and they didn't even have the strength to lift their legs. Outside, hundreds of skin and bones were scattered. The scene was shocking. This made everyone realize a problem. In front of absolute power, even the imperial family had no way to resist. Zhu Qingxian hurriedly walked towards the hall. His expression was frighteningly gloomy. Behind him, Wu Ma Chao was also frowning. This matter was actually related to the crown prince. And his son's disappearance? Could it be? Thinking about this, Wu Ma Chao emitted a faint killing intent. At this moment, Zhu Zhengqing and Zhu Di were still kneeling in the hall. When they heard the footsteps outside, they immediately lowered their heads. Especially Zhu Zhengqing, he could no longer remain calm. Zhu Qingxian walked towards the crown prince and fiercely kicked Zhu Zhengqing, sending him flying. Then he immediately sat on the main seat. Zhu Zhengqing's body was like a cannonball as he fiercely smashed out of the room. Waves of muffled sounds rang out from outside. It could be seen how powerful the kick was. Zhu Di, tell me what happened. Zhu Di didn't dare to lie and told everything that happened just now. Zhu Qingxian felt a wave of dizziness after hearing it, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Your Majesty! Father Emperor! At this moment, waves of hurried footsteps rang out from outside again. The Empress, Che Mengyang, and Che Hongliang could be seen appearing. Your Majesty Yin, where's my Yin? Che Mengyang's beautiful face revealed a panicked expression. Meanwhile, Che Hongliang hurriedly bowed with a grave expression. Empress, out of all the princes, only Zhu Zhengqing and I are left. The other princes have all died. Zhu Di said sorrowfully. Che Mainyang blankly looked at Zhu Di, who was kneeling on the ground. A few hours ago, my son was alive and well, and a few hours later, he told me that he died. Empress! Che Hongliang cried out in surprise. The Empress could be seen directly fainting on the ground. Emperor Zhu Chengxian gasped for breath and said coldly, "Go! Go and bring that unfilial son over." "Yes." Wumat Sahu replied coldly. After quite a while, Wumat Sahu carried Zhu Jingqing over. Right now, Zhu Jingqing's entire body was covered in blood, and he had suffered very serious external injuries. However, his life was not in danger. "Speak. Tell me everything in full detail. I, the Emperor, have lost a few hundred of my sons today. I don't mind losing another one." Zhu Chengxian stared fixedly at Zhu Jingqing. What that little girl said just now was very obvious. Everything that happened was because of Zhu Jingqing. This His Highness the Crown Prince. "Father Emperor, I'll speak. I'll speak. Right now. How would Zhu Jingqing dare to hide anything? Your son accidentally found Niwa's bloodline and Dong Huang's bloodline." Chapter 406. Speak. Continue. Zhu Chengxian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Zhu Jingqing gulped. "These two bloodlines are under the control of Lord Marquis. They are both in the plains under his jurisdiction. So you're in a hurry to take over the plain?" Zhu Chengxian instantly understood. Ho Xuelin wanted to monopolize the two branches, and after his son found out, he became greedy. Zhu Jingqing fell silent, tacitly acknowledging the truth. "And then?" Zhu Jingqing said. "After that, a few days ago, I brought along my trusted subordinates and went over, wanting to meet them, but they were too powerful, and I was the only one who didn't make it through." "What about Mayan Wu Ma Chao asked angrily. Zhu Jingqing didn't dare to look directly at it and said in a low voice, "He was burned to death." "What?" "Father Emperor, I thought that there wouldn't be any formidable figures appearing in that kind of low-level plane. But who would have thought that a little girl would actually be able to defeat us?" Upon thinking about Dong Huangli, Zhu Jingqing couldn't help but tremble a bit. Zhu Chengxian questioned coldly, "Is it that little girl just now?" "No, not the one just now. It is even smaller than the one just now." Hearing Zhu Jingqing's words, the hall was silent. A child younger than the monster just now? What kind of monster was that? How could there be such a person in such a low-level plane? "Your Majesty, I think we should immediately return to the palace to discuss a countermeasure." Che Hongliang made the most sincere suggestion. Zhu Qingxian was silent for a moment before he said, "Send someone to retrieve the corpses of the princes. This emperor will naturally take revenge for this. As for the crown prince, he will be stripped of his title and thrown into the dungeon to be dealt with later." "Father Emperor, please spare me. I didn't do it on purpose, Father Emperor." Zhu Jingqing's entire body was covered with blood, and it seemed like Zhu Jingqing wanted to crawl towards his father Emperor, but the soldiers outside the door grabbed onto Zhu Jingqing and brought him away. "Imperial Father, spare my life." Zhu Jingqing's pleading voice could still be heard from outside the hall. If he had known this would happen, he would never have gone to such a low-level plane. The bloodline of the Niwa clan and the bloodline of the Donghuang clan were not as important as his life. Wealth was sought in danger. Zhu Jingqing obviously did not seek wealth, but brought disaster upon himself. If Yi Hua wasn't that powerful, Zhu Jingqing might have succeeded, and the consequences would be unimaginable. "Return to the palace." Zhu Chengxian shouted in a deep voice. The majestic team had only been here for a few hours, but they suddenly returned. This made many people in the city curious, and they were all discussing why the royal family suddenly returned to the palace. The hunt would last for 7 days. Could it be that something had happened? This was what everyone was thinking. Moreover, from the number of people in the group, there were a lot fewer people, and those who were missing were princes dressed in luxurious clothes. This gave rise to all kinds of speculations. The team did not land outside the imperial city. Instead, they flew directly into the imperial palace. Of course, the news of all the princes being killed had to be kept under wraps. Otherwise, it would cause unnecessary panic. After Zhu Qingxian returned to the palace, he immediately summoned all the ministers to discuss how to deal with this matter. Heavenly Master, do you have a good plan to repel the enemy? Zhu Qingxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked in a low voice. His tone was filled with desolation. Anyone who encountered such a thing would collapse, but Zhu Qingxian was the emperor. No matter how great the pressure was, he had to endure it. Ingwei turned around and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, the blood ray has come true. Everyone present was silent. The legend of the blood ray was true. It had only been a few days, yet it had already happened. 3 days later, it would be even more impossible. Not to mention anything else, just the 3 corpse koan were enough to keep them busy. What bullsh *T blood ray? This subject believes that in a battle between 2 armies, the one who strikes first has the advantage. If your Majesty trusts this subject is willing to take 100,000 soldiers and slaughter that lower plane as an offering to the heroic spirits of the princes. Wu Ma Chao was brimming with murderous intent. The little girl only knew demonic techniques. It was only because of the 3 corpse koan's presence that he didn't dare to act. Moreover, the corpse koan was a vicious beast from heaven's domain. Those lower planes didn't have them, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Che Hongliang disagreed and cupped his hands, saying, General Wu, if we send out our troops, then there will be no room for negotiation. You have to know that the other party could be a supreme. So what if he's a supreme? Can a supreme kill princes as he pleases? Wu Ma Chao was a bit selfish. He wanted to take revenge for his son. As for the little girl the crown prince spoke of, she was killed because they were not as skilled. Ingwei calmly said, Your Majesty, this subject believes that we should invite a supreme to mediate this matter. Is there a need for a supreme for such a small matter? Your Majesty, allow this subject to take revenge for the princes. That way, your Majesty will be at ease. General Wu, if you really bring your troops there, then it will be a battle to the death. Che Hongliang warned. A general was a general after all. He was brainless. Wu Ma Chao coldly snorted. Who knows if the little girl is bluffing? Your Majesty, we cannot be scared out of our wits by the enemy. Allow this subject to be the vanguard. If this subject fails, then it won't be too late to invite a supreme. Once these words were spoken, the hall began to whisper among themselves. Zhu Qingxian powerlessly asked, Heavenly Teacher, what do you think of this method? General Wu's suggestion is not impossible, but if General Wu fails, then we can only place our hopes on a supreme. There will be no room for maneuver. Ingwei's words were true. Heavenly Teacher, you are boosting the morale of others and diminishing your own. This general has guarded the border for thousands of years, and has experienced far more dangers than this. What is there to fear from such a lower plane? Che Hongliang, what do you think? Zhu Qingxian asked. Che Hongliang lowered his voice and said, My opinion is the same as yours. We can send our troops, but there is no way out. Is there a way out now? Wu Ma Chao laughed mockingly. This group of treacherous people only knew how to play tricks. What do you all think? Zhu Qingxian asked the officials. I think General Wu's suggestion is feasible. Let's first test the enemy. If they are truly a fox exploiting the tiger's might, then we will destroy them. I agree. I also agree. I also agree. Seeing so many people in favor of General Wu's suggestion, Zhu Qingxian seemed to have made a decision. After all the adult princes had been killed. It would be a lie to say that they were not angry. Moreover, this anger had to be washed away with blood. Good. Wu Ma Chao listened to the decree. I order you to take 100,000 soldiers and be the vanguard. If the enemy is a fox exploiting the tiger's might, bring their heads to see me. Then, we will destroy that lower plane as a sacrifice to the souls of our princes. Wu Ma Chao knelt to receive the decree and shouted, Do not worry, Your Majesty. I will definitely kill those inferior races. However, if I do not return within a day, Your Majesty will arrange for an audience with the Supreme. I hope Your Majesty will take care of my family. Chapter 407. This servant will not hesitate to risk my life. This servant will go and prepare now. Go. Wu Ma Chao bowed and left. Soon after, he went to gather 100,000 soldiers to take revenge for his son. In the palace hall, Sky Teacher sighed. Rather than attacking, I might as well express my goodwill. This is the best way to avoid this disaster. However, this was normal for His Majesty. It had been a long time since the royal family suffered a loss. For the royal family's face, they had to fight back. Sky Teacher, go and prepare for the ceremony. If General Wu Ma does not return tomorrow morning, we will ask Jizun for help. Right now, Zhu Qingxian only planned to use these two plans. He had a lot of confidence in Jizun. After all, Jizun was a very ethereal being. He was above gods and controlled the laws of the world. And the other party was just a self-proclaimed his honor. Who knows if it was real or fake? However, those three corpse Kuan were indeed very hard to deal with. Your Majesty, please be at ease. This servant will naturally make proper arrangements and do my best to get through this disaster. Ying Wei was a conservative person. Although the suggestion that he made was not very aggressive, it was very practical. If they followed Ying Wei's suggestion and sent someone to get in touch with Yi Hua and try to satisfy Yi Hua's request, there might be a trace of hope to solve the problem. Alright, there is no hope at all. Under Zhu Jingqing's attitude, Yi Hua had already determined his ending. Not only his ending, but the ending of the people around him as well. At that very moment, within the ruins of Ji family, there were 6 figures. They were huddled together and seemed to be discussing something. What is it? Jijiji, Imperial Translation. I want this place. Sunfang, what is this fellow saying? He is speaking in a dialect I don't understand. Then, we want this place. You guys go to Ying family and guard it. No, I want this place. You guys go to Ying family and Voidless Realm. These 6 people were naturally Voidless Realm and Death Mage. Death Mage, Sun Fang, Green and Red Brothers, plus Tang Wei and Zishan. The 6 of them followed his honor's instructions and came to wait for Yi Hua. Because Yi Hua felt that after Yi Zizi caused such a ruckus, the other party would definitely not sit still and do nothing. There was a possibility that the other party would take action. And the other party would definitely take action against the remaining 2 big shots, or everyone. Thus, Yi Hua specially ordered Wei Chang to deal with them. Of course, Wei Chang wouldn't deal with it himself, so he arranged for his subordinates. In the beginning, he had called Death Mage and Sun Fang, but after feeling that there were too few people, he decided to call the Green and Red Brothers. In the end, when Tang Wei heard that there was going to be a fight, her hands became a bit itchy. Wei Chang naturally doted on Tang Wei a lot, and thus he gave Tang Wei a chance to gain some experience. Adding on Zishan, who was by the side, there were only 6 of them. The 6 of them were divided into groups of 2, each guarding the 3 giants. However, all 6 of them knew that if they were to really come to Voidless Realm, they would definitely appear in Voidless Realm first. And there was at least an 88% chance that they would appear there. This was what Zishan had said herself, because if she really wanted to come here, the deities would definitely go and investigate, and there would be records of her. As soon as he said that, everyone wanted to stay here because there was work to do. They were so bored that their scalps were falling off. Hearing these women arguing, Big Brother Green said, "How about we play rock, paper, scissors? The winner will guard the Ji family's side, and the loser will guard the other 2 sides. How about it?" After Sun Fang heard it, she felt that it was fine. Zishan and Tang Wei also felt that it was not a bad idea. Little brother, go. Big Brother Green pushed Yi Hong forward. As for Tang Wei, she pushed Zishan forward. You don't want a husband and wife team, and yet, you want a brother team? You don't want your wife. Be careful of Zishan getting angry and killing you. Yi Hong looked at Zishan, then immediately shifted his gaze away. Yi Hong's heart was thumping wildly. Although they were already an old couple, every time Yi Hong saw Zishan, his heart would be in a mess, and every day, he felt as if he was living the feeling of his first love. Death Mage pushed Sun Fang forward. This woman's luck was good, back then. She helped me fish and won quite a bit of money. Before playing rock, paper, scissors, Zishan secretly glared at Yi Hong, seemingly saying, "If you dare to win against me, don't enter the room today, go sleep on the sofa." Yi Hong felt that Zishan was threatening him, and naturally, he wouldn't fight with his wife over Zishan. This was a kind of display of doting on his wife. Rock, paper, scissors. Oh yeah, I win, Sun Fong laughed, then used a pair of scissors to wipe the two of them. Yi Hong spread out his hands. Don't blame me. Zishan snorted, acting coquettishly. After that, she left Ji family with Tang Wei and headed towards Ying family. As for the Green and Red brothers, they went to Voidless Realm. Meanwhile, inside Leisure Bar's office, Yihua was smoking a cigarette while standing beside the window and staring at the night sky, and Wei Chong was respectfully standing behind him. Your Honor, will they come? Wei Chong asked in a low voice. Yihua spat out a mouthful of smoke, and the smoke transformed into a skull, which was soon blown away by a breeze. According to those people's way of thinking, they definitely won't leave the matter at that. What's the saying again? Attack when the enemy is unprepared. Yihua said indifferently, then lightly flicked away the cigarette ash with his index finger, then took another puff of the cigarette. Comfortable. Wei Chong immediately complimented. Your Honor is truly courageous and resourceful. Subordinate is convinced. Wei Chong, I am already tired of hearing those words. Prepare some new words. Extremely smart. Yihua almost choked on his own cigarette. Touching onto his own hair, he said, if I were to become extremely smart, you would be the first one I would target. His Honor is just saying it casually. I have already said that I have stewed Lai Gu a few thousand times, but I still haven't stewed it yet. Your Honor, how many people are going to go 3 days later? Yihua took one last puff of the cigarette, then said faintly, everyone. Wei Chong, who was behind Yihua, revealed out a strange smile, seemingly like he was already impatient. There will always be some fellows who don't know the difference between life and death, and want to anger His Honor. After knowing the consequences of their actions, it will be too late for regrets. In this world, there is no if. Bayubiubiu, bayubiubiu, bayubiubiu. Imperial translation. Wife, how many gold coins have you sent? Right now, Death Mage and Sun Fong were sitting at the entrance of Ji family's house. Sun Fong was still sitting cross-legged on the broken chair, and her pair of tender fingers were tapping on the screen frantically. Death Mage, who was at the side, was not inferior in any way either. These two people are simply demon hands. Don't make a sound, we are fighting a boss. Aya, it is all your fault for distracting me. And the boss was actually snatched away by someone else. Sun Fong snorted. She was not willing to accept this outcome. Let's do another 648. I will kill you too. Death Mage looked at Sun Fong, who was at the side, and deeply despised her. Right now, I don't even need to top up money when I'm fishing. Do you believe me? Death Mage secretly opened up the top-up interface, and instantly tapped on 648. Then he scanned his face and paid. Death Mage's movements were so skillful that he looked like a habitual criminal. What are you doing? Top up money. Sun Fong glared at Death Mage. GGG Imperial translation. Top up money? Impossible. It is impossible for me to top up money in my entire life. Within the pitch-black ruins of Ji family, a different rhythm of music rang out. Furthermore, that noise seemed to have added a bit of liveliness to the ruins. Meanwhile, within Heaven's Manor, Wu Ma Chao had already finished his preparations. Looking at his 100,000-strong army, every single one of them was a fierce warrior who had been through hundreds of battles. Going to a low-level plane, wouldn't it be just a matter of slaughtering dogs? Soldiers, I don't want to say any unnecessary words. I only have one request. Wu Ma Chao paused for a moment, then swept his fierce eyes around. Kill all of the living beings in front of us. Long live the general. Long live the general. What kind of feeling was it to have 100,000 soldiers shouting at the same time? If an ordinary person were to hear it, their entire body would go numb, and their brain would immediately be filled with blood. Chapter 408. Just as Zishan had guessed, Wu Ma Chao's teleportation location was indeed according to Ho Xiuelin and Zhu Jingqing's. Therefore, he appeared at the Ji family's ruins. At this moment, a colorful glow appeared in the sky above the G family, illuminating the ruins of the G family. The light fell like a waterfall, covering the entire G family's ruins. The scene was breathtaking, and of course it was very grand. Figures gradually appeared in the light. Tens of thousands of people stood in a square formation, bringing with them an austere aura. After the light disappeared, the austere aura became heavier and heavier, forming a murderous aura. Everyone's eyes shone with a bloodthirsty light. Towards such a low-level plane, the soldiers only had one thought: to slaughter. Wu Ma Chao scanned the unfamiliar world. The air quality was not ordinary, and just smelling it made him want to vomit. However, an unusual sound rang out in the originally peaceful night. Bayubiu, Wu Ma Chao, who was standing at the front of the army, raised his eyebrows. What was that sound? It seemed so young and immature. At that moment, Wu Ma Chao was wearing a black armor. Both of his shoulders were diamond-shaped and embedded with golden godly pearls. His breastplate was slightly protruding like the sharp teeth of a beast. Together with the half-moon broadsword in his hand, he looked like a god descending from the heavens. "General, be careful, there might be a trap. Wait for me to check." The deputy general cupped his hands and shouted. Wu Ma Chao sneered. He raised the ancient godly weapon in his hand and slashed it down. Suddenly, a loud sound rang out. The huge broadsword formed a fan shape and swept out with a boundless and ferocious aura. It was as if it was going to crush everything in front of it. However, that was the case. In an instant, the buildings in front of him were all turned into powder. A man and a woman could be seen sitting not far away, playing with something with their heads lowered. And the sound of Bayubiu was coming from here. Wu Ma Chao was a bit shocked. Who were these two people? How could they control the power of the ancient godly weapon, and not be turned into powder? They're here. Let's go take care of them. Sun Fang raised her head and took a look. It seemed that the game in her hands was more important. Death Mage let out a jia sound. Imperial translation. You fought for this yourself. How can you let me take care of it? Sun Fang seemed to be able to understand what he was saying. She said in a sweet voice, "Are you going or not? If you're not going, then I won't top up the money for you." Seems like the person in charge of the money is Sun Fang. This caused Death Mage to be a little depressed. Stacking the phone and the power bank together, Death Mage placed them on the chair, and only after making sure that they would not fall down, did he feel relieved. A black-robed man standing in front of an army of 100,000 was a rather comical sight. However, from Death Mage's point of view, the number of people on the other side wasn't as many as he had imagined. However, if he were to look down from above, the scene would be much more spectacular. "Who are you?" Wu Ma Chao pointed his blade at the Death Mage. "Kakik." The royal translator said, "Your father." Wu Ma Chao was stunned. What did that mean? Since Death Mage was wearing a black robe, Wu Ma Chao couldn't see his face clearly. That was why he was suspicious of his opponent's voice. Sun Fang translated while playing the game. "He's calling you an idiot. How dare you? General Wu Ma is not someone a piece of trash like you can slander." As the deputy general, he had to stand up for the general. Wu Ma Chao motioned for his deputies to withdraw and asked, "Why are you here?" "Bayubiu." Sun Fang pressed her phone and laughed, "Waiting for you guys." "Kakik." The royal translator said, "My wife is right." Hearing Sun Fang's words, Wu Ma Chao laughed loudly. Even the soldiers behind him started laughing as well. "Just two people, and you want to fight against this general's army of 100,000? Are you guys stupid or insane?" Wu Ma Chao laughed in disdain. The people of this low-level plane were too arrogant, because they didn't know what despair was. Sun Fang stood up and looked straight at Wu Ma Chao. "There's no need for two. One is enough to deal with you guys." "Ha ha ha, what a joke. You guys are the people who call themselves His Honor, right?" Wu Ma Chao asked while laughing. "That's right. His Honor predicted that you guys would come and launch a sneak attack. That's why he ordered us to receive you guys and serve you well," Sun Fang said while playing the game. This kind of attitude made Wu Ma Chao very unhappy. He immediately pointed his index finger at Sun Fang, and a golden ray of light shot out from his fingertip. It brought along an astonishing might. and its speed was so fast that it made people blush with shame. Sun Fang didn't even raise her head. It was as if she didn't notice it. Wu Ma Chao sneered. So it was just a woman who only knew how to talk big. However, the next scene caused Wu Ma Chao to lose his cool. The golden ray of light actually stopped half a meter away from the woman. It was as if it was isolated and could no longer move forward. How was this possible? Wu Ma Chao looked at his own hand. This move was able to pierce through people who were weaker than him. Even if they were at the same level, it would still be able to heavily injure them. However, in this low-level plane, it was actually blocked. If Wu Ma Chao had asked Zhu Jinqing in detail, perhaps he wouldn't have been so impulsive. After all, Wu Ma Chao believed that the Crown Prince's trifling skills couldn't even be put on the stage. It was normal for him to lose. However, he was different. This kind of thinking was indeed very scary. Actually, there was no difference between him and the Crown Prince. You guys are fighting already? Do you need my help? The green and red brothers suddenly appeared at the scene. Zishan and Tang Wei also suddenly appeared here. The four of them stood in the sky and curiously looked at the army of 100,000 in front of them. The scale was not small at all. They actually sent out so many cannon fodder. That's right, in their eyes, these people could only be called cannon fodder. Wu Ma Chao looked at Zishan, who was one of the two women. He thought to himself, do they look alike or are they the wives of the Marquis? Also, what is the meaning of the sudden appearance of 2 men and 2 women? Helpers? However, only 4 came. Hee. The people of this low-level plane must have some problems with their brains. Stop messing around. Can't you see that my little skeleton is acting cool? Sun Fang laughed. The little skeleton and Wu Ma Chao looked at Death Mage, who was holding the scythe of death. Death Mage revealed his skull. Wu Ma Chao's gaze was startled. He didn't expect Death Mage to be from the undead race. He was actually suppressed by a skeleton. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if this were to spread out? In this kind of trash plane, only this kind of low-level undead race would appear. Of course, Zishan knew Wu Ma Chao. However, she wasn't very familiar with him. She had heard about this person before. She quite admired Wu Ma Chao. He guarded the border all year round in exchange for peace. However, she didn't expect him to be the one leading the army today. If they could instigate this person to defect, it would be a fortunate thing for the team. General Wu Ma, Zishan shouted. Chapter 409. You are Madame Ziyuan? Wu Ma Chao looked at Zishan in the sky and asked. Zishan paused for a moment, then said indifferently, I do not have any relationship with that Ho Xiuelin. Please do not call me Madame Ziyuan. My name is Zishan. Alright then Zishan, what do you mean by this? Wu Ma Chao did not want to waste any more words. This Zishan's attitude was clearly a traitor. She betrayed Heaven's manner, betrayed her faith. General Wu Ma, a wise man submits to circumstances. If you and your subordinates surrender to his honor, then we will be able to avoid a lot of casualties. Ha. Wu Ma Chao laughed after hearing that. He did not expect Zishan to persuade them to surrender. Zishan, did I hear wrongly? You want to persuade them to surrender? I am Heaven's Manor's General Zhen Yuan. My family has been guarding the border for generations, allowing Heaven's Manor's people to live a good life. This glory is my faith. And you abandoned your faith and helped the tyrant. However, even if you surrender, I will not let any of you go. Everyone in this low-level plane will pay a heavy price for what you have done. Even after death, your soul will be cursed by the heavens. Zishan shook her head after hearing that. General Wu Ma, why bother? Your stubbornness will make the warriors behind you sacrifice for nothing. What a joke. My soldiers were brought up by me. They do not fear anything. As long as it is an enemy, they will bravely charge forward, even if it means death. Isn't that right? Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Waves of high-spirited voices soared into the sky. That deep and resounding voice made one's scalp go numb. The green and red brothers could feel it very clearly. This was morale. Zishan, it's useless. Sun Fang slowly put down her phone. She knew that Zishan wanted to persuade her people. However, it took you so much effort to change your mind. For a general to change his side just because of a few words from you. There must be a conspiracy behind it. Zishan deeply sighed and turned around, as if she did not want to see her comrades being massacred. Upon seeing that, Yihong hurriedly walked in front of Zishan. She did not know how to comfort Zishan, and could only gently hug her. Wu Ma Chao snorted coldly when he saw this. A high and mighty god was actually following a lowly human. He was the scum of the gods, a disgrace to all the gods. Lowly skeleton, I'll let you see how this general breaks your bones. Just as he finished speaking, the skeleton opposite him tossed the scythe in his hand into the air. GGG Royal Translation. Death Absorption. The death scythe in the hands of the death mage was not an ordinary item. Although in terms of toughness, it seemed to be inferior to the Xian Yuan sword, which was an ancient godly item. The death scythe was an artifact that could be used for both offense and defense. It was not a real weapon. It was just like the staff in the hands of a mage. Although its attack power was low, its magic power was very strong. The Scythe of Death followed the same principle. In the Scythe of Death, there was a terrifying power hidden within it. It was the super move that came with the Scythe of Death. Death Absorption. If it was used at this time, it would be obvious that it was an area of effect attack. If it was a single target attack, it would take a long time. Therefore, Death Mage was a very good mid-laner. Sometimes he would even pretend to be a top laner, but in the end he would be beaten to a pulp. Death Mage was a good jungler, snatching all kinds of resources. When the Scythe of Death was tossed into the air, it immediately began to spin. The speed became faster and faster, and it was as if a circular black hole had appeared in the air. Although it gave people an illusion, it was not an illusion. It was a real black hole, a black hole that led to death. A terrifying aura was emitted from the black hole. Wu Ma Chao was shocked. Everyone listen to my command, get into formation. The 100,000 generals shouted in unison, and they immediately blocked the terrifying aura. A barrier enveloped everyone within it. The black hole was still expanding, and the aura emitted from it was getting heavier and heavier. It was firmly suppressing the barrier. With the naked eye, it could be seen that the circular barrier seemed to be being pushed, and it looked like a bubble that was about to explode. Finally, the black hole in the air no longer expanded, but it was currently at least 100 meters in radius. It was pitch black inside, and the 100,000 soldiers could clearly see it. It was impossible to think that this was the end. The ruins of the Ji family slowly rose. Wu Ma Chao's gaze shifted over, and he saw that the ruins were actually being sucked into the black hole. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The buildings were no longer rising slowly, but were forcefully sucked in. Some trees were even uprooted. Steady! Wu Ma Chao shouted loudly. What kind of technique was this? How could it be so abnormal? All the soldiers stabbed their weapons into the ground, but the suction of the black hole was getting stronger and stronger. Their feet left long marks on the ground. Even though their weapons were cutting through the ground, they could not stop the suction. The 100,000 soldiers immediately fell into chaos. The barrier was extremely unstable. All of a sudden, the barrier broke. The moment the barrier broke, countless soldiers' bodies rose into the air, and they were mercilessly swallowed. There was no blood or violence in this scene, only painful wails. The strongest, Wu Ma Chao, shouted angrily. A layer of golden light wrapped around him, and he stabbed the ancient divine weapon in his hand into the ground. His feet stomped hard, and he sank deep into the ground. Do not panic. Resist this suction. Wu Ma Chao shouted angrily. He watched the countless figures being sucked into the black hole, but he could not do anything. Even now, he was still trying to protect himself. Many soldiers began to imitate the general, but their strength was different. Even though they were imitating, they were still sucked into the black hole. General, save me. Wu Ma Chao turned his head and saw a young and tender-looking youth reaching out his hand. His eyes were filled with panic. He probably hadn't married yet. Wu Ma Chao reached out, But he missed. He could only watch as the young soldier was sucked into the black hole. General. This time Wu Ma Chao caught him. Vice General. General, thank you. The Vice General revealed a smile. He was not thanking the General for saving him. He was thanking the General for taking care of him all these years. Wu Ma Chao's rigid face was also moved. Do not panic. I will have a way to save you all. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The Vice General's body was lifted high as if he was being pulled by something. Wu Ma Chao's feet began to move underground. It was easy to see how terrifying this suction was. General, let go. Thank you for taking care of us all these years. The Vice General saw that the General was not letting go. He was grateful, but he could not drag the General down with him. What nonsense are you saying? We still have to go back together. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.